mistake of using two different names for one person in the posts. I am using the second name mentioned since it is used more frequently than the first name only used once. May 10th, 2023. Pretty much what the title says. I've never posted on here before, but I do like to read the stories sometimes. Let's call my sister Diana and her boyfriend Mike. I'm the youngest of my three siblings, Diana, and my brother, who we'll call Carlos. I came out as gay when I was 14, and my immediate family, my parents and siblings, were all supportive. My extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, and grandparents are less accepting, so I don't tend to be as out and open around them. I graduated high school and started college 2 years ago when I was 17. I go to the same college that my sister is doing grad school at, and to save costs, I've been staying with her and her then fiancé at their apartment. Mike had always been really nice, and I was happy that my sister was with a nice guy. My siblings and I have always been super close, and that closeness didn't go away when I started living with Diana, so I would often end up hanging out with them and their friends sometimes. The semester just ended for the two of us, and we all went home this weekend to stay with my parents. We had a big family dinner, during which Mike kept making little jokes about me liking older guys. My boyfriend is 23, and how he would try to keep me away from him and his buddies. Me and my siblings questioned him about these jokes he was making, until he finally stopped making them. That was last night. This morning, my siblings and my parents went on a hike, which is a family activity that we usually enjoy thanks to us living close to the woods. I slept in and no one wanted to bother me, so they went without me. I figured that everyone had gone, but when I was eating my cereal in the living room and watching TV, Mike came out of the kitchen and sat next to me. I was surprised to see him, as I figured that he would have gone on the hike, but I guess not. He started by apologizing for making fun of me and then said that it was just a nervous tic of his when he didn't want to talk about something serious. He said that it was wrong of him to joke about my crush on him. When I requested for clarification because I was so perplexed, he claimed to know about my secret crush on him. I asked him why he would think that, and he cited a few things that he took as me liking him. First of all, I would always hang out with him and Diana. Second one, that I chose to live with them instead of in a dorm. Third, that he barely knew my boyfriend. And last one, that I didn't bring my boyfriend to their wedding. I tried to tell him that he was insane and that none of that meant I liked him, and they all had real explanations, but he just insisted that I was just trying to cover up the fact that I was in love with him. That was a few hours ago. I haven't told anyone in my family this yet, and I didn't have lunch with my family since I've had plans to be out with high school friends all day. One friend suggested that I post this here, so I guess that's why I'm doing this. I'll be sure to update if anything serious happens. Thanks for reading, LOL. Small update. Not sure if I should have made this its own post, but if I should have, let me know. Hello everyone. I had no idea that this would take off the way it did. I have a bit of a small update. I spent the night at my friend's house last night. This was planned before any of this. This morning I woke up and saw all of your comments and speculations. I took some time to reflect on the two main possibilities that you all seem to have come up with. Either he's one of those straight guys that thinks that all gay guys are attracted to him, definitely met a few of those, or he likes me and is projecting it, or trying to make it sound like my idea. After thinking about it a lot, I think that it is more likely to be the second option. I am a person who really loves physical displays of affection, like hugs and cuddles and stuff. My siblings and I are super close like I said, so I was used to showing my affection this way. Looking back, I realized that Mike was more than willing to show affection this way, as my sister is the same. Mike and Diana had been dating since high school, but I only really got to know him in the last 2 years at college. He was always open to physical affection with me, right off the bat. There have been many comments that he has made that I took as harmless at the time, but now with the context, I realize there may have been clues. He would almost always ask me how he looked, like, before he went out for the day, and would in turn compliment me back. I took things that he said as jokes, like when he told me that my ass looked good in an outfit, or he would tell me that I looked just like my sister, who is gorgeous. I always took this as him being nice, but now I'm not sure if that was his only intention. Anyway, to the actual update. This morning, I called for a sibling meeting at a diner that we like to go to. Sibling meetings are something that we've been doing since we were kids, where we talk about things like convincing our parents to get us a pet or splitting the household chores. We met at the diner for brunch, and my brother immediately went on and said how weird it was that Mike was making jokes about me. Diana said that he was still making jokes to her privately after dinner and that it wasn't the first time he had made those types of jokes. She said that she figured that he was one of those guys who thought that gay guys liked him, But then I told them about his apology yesterday morning and all the comments and other jokes he's made, and we all think it was pretty weird. I showed them my post and they briefly read through the comments as well. My sister said that she would talk to him about it and told me that no matter what happened, she would never hold anything against me or blame me for anything, so that was reassuring. We had food and I went back to my friend's house and my sister said she would let me know if anything happens. I also texted my boyfriend about all of this. Since he's British, there's a bit of a time difference, so he hasn't responded yet. I want to make sure he stays informed. Right now, I'm hanging out with my friends, watching them play a video game and pretending to know what's happening. LOL. I'll keep you all updated. Comments. First, by Mike's theory, with every example he gave you, you also have a crush on your sister, so I might point that out to him unless you think he'd actually believe it. Second, did he stay behind in hopes of talking to you alone? Maybe the real issue is he has developed a crush on you. If he continues making jokes or whatnot, then I might consider saying something to your sister. But if it ends here, I would try to bring your BF around a little more. I don't even understand why he felt the need to bring it up to you. Kinda weird. Update, June 27th, 2024, 1 year and 1 month later. Hello everyone. I would first like to say thank you all for your support in the comments of my last post and in your guys' private messages to me. After the last mini update, I had logged off of Reddit and a lot of things have happened, so I honestly kind of forgot that I even had this account still. Coincidentally, I was on TikTok a while ago when I found one of those AI voice accounts that read Reddit stories over someone playing Minecraft parkour. Those types of videos are like weeds. Once you see one of them, your entire timeline gets flooded with them. Earlier today, a video with part of my Reddit post came across my FYP, and the comments were full of people asking if there were any updates. It has been over a year, and I'm so sorry for keeping you all in the dark. I saw that my last post was archived and nobody could comment on it, so I figured I should make a new post. For those of you who might be seeing me for the first time ever, I believe you can find my first post on my page. I would recommend reading that before you read this one. I would also like to issue a trigger warning for sexual assault. Now, onto the whole mess that was the past year for me. So the last time I updated y'all was in May of last year. Me and my siblings were all on summer break from college, and were home for the summer. So the day after I talked to my siblings at the diner, I returned home from my friend's house and everything seemed normal. My sister informed me that she had talked to her boyfriend, that he had seemed more receptive to her concerns, and he was a lot more calm towards me. He stayed with us until the end of that week, where no further incident occurred between us, before he left to go visit his own family. He's on the complete other side of the country as us. Shortly after he left, I noticed that my favorite pair of underwear was missing after doing a load of laundry. At the time, I chalked it up to being lost in the wash or maybe mixed up with someone else's clothes. They were a pair of pink briefs, which I find more comfortable for my body type than other forms of underwear, though they're unfortunately considered more sexy. I'm sure you can all understand what actually happened to them. My sister only stayed with us for 2 weeks, as her job was only allowing her so much time that she could be remote. From what I knew, her boyfriend had returned to our apartment around the same time as her. I stayed for the whole month, before I too had to return to the city our college is in because I had gotten a summer internship in that city. So I was back to staying with my sister and her boyfriend. A few weeks into that, my sister was out for the night because of her friend's bachelorette party, and her boyfriend was out at a bar with his friends, which left me alone in the apartment for the night. I had a movie night and went to bed early. I awoke in the middle of the night to my sister's boyfriend in my bed, touching me. When he noticed I was awake, he held me down and assaulted me. The whole time he was doing it, he was threatening my and my sister's lives, saying that if I told her, or anyone, he would kill both of us. My sister ended up staying the night at her friend's place, and her boyfriend assaulted me 2 more times before she came home. I was pretty broken by that point, and his threats against our lives were ringing in my ears all the time. This cycle continued, where my sister's boyfriend would act withdrawn from me when around others, especially my sister, then assault me whenever he could, threatening both of our lives if I ever spoke up. It's such a difficult thing to describe. The rational part of your brain tells you that it is just a manipulation tactic, that he was lying, and that I needed to speak up, but the irrational part of my brain was so scared. I don't know if that makes sense to you all. Maybe those of you who have been through a similar situation as me might understand it. I also began to change, my usually happy and bubbly personality changing to a more withdrawn, moody, almost depressed one. I took to wearing less revealing clothes, especially at home, think from tank tops and booty shorts to t-shirts and pants. A reminder that this was happening in summer, so my previous wardrobe was better for the weather. About 3 months later, in September, When I was back to school and done with the summer internship, my sister was doing laundry one day and decided to surprise me by doing mine too, because she's a sweetheart like that. She also decided to wash my sheets for me, and that's when she saw that there were blood stains on my sheets. This immediately raised concerns with her. So that day, when I came home from campus, I found my sister on the couch, with the sheet next to her. She tentatively asked me if I had been self-harming, as she herself had been through that struggle. She has scars on her thighs from doing it. She told me that my recent change of mood, and the fact that I had changed my wardrobe to be more covered up, especially my legs, had her worried. I told her I was not, but could offer no explanation as to why the sheets were bloody. It was then that I broke down and had a huge panic attack. My sister tried to calm me down at first, but when that didn't help, and I was still struggling, she decided to take me to the ER. The attack lasted for about 45 minutes, only going away when they gave me some sort of medication to help me calm down. Apologies, my memories from this particular part are a little spotty. Once I calmed down, I was allowed to stay in the hospital room for a little bit, and when it was eventually me and my sister, where I confessed it all to her. She was extremely comforting, and asked me when the last time he had assaulted me was. It was the night before, so she pressed the little doctor or nurse call thing, and told them that I was going to need a rape kit. For those of you who want the specifics of that process, please Google it. After that, I just wanted to go home. My sister took me, and left me in her car at first, then came out and ensured that her boyfriend was not there yet. She texted him and told him to not come home, as the two of us were really sick and we did not want to infect him. The next day, instead of going to our classes, she took me to our local police station to file a police report. This whole process was also long and laborious, and honestly my memory surrounding it all is kinda hazy, something my therapist says can happen with traumatic experiences, but with the evidence found from the rape kit, and my testimony, he got a sentence of 4 years and a fine, and he has to register on the sex offender registry. I am doing much better now. My schooling was only a little bit affected, but nothing too bad, and I'm on summer break again. My sister and I are both close still. We are both in therapy, and I'm getting through things day by day. I am currently writing this from home, and I'm flying out to London next week to see my boyfriend. I will try to not forget this page again. Haha. Additional information from OP on how Mike was confronted. OP. Yeah, so he was at a friend's place while we were at our apartment. My sister was still maintaining that we were sick. We told the police which friend he was likely to be staying with, and he was taken from there. Since I got the rape kit, they were able to get DNA from that, plus we submitted the sheets as evidence, and there was some DNA on there too. The police compared his DNA to the DNA found, and that was what nailed him as guilty. He maintained his innocence until his sentence was delivered. He threatened me when they were taking him out. OP shares details from Mike's family after they found out what happened and their reactions. OP. His family was a bit of a problem at first. His parents sort of had the "my son would never" attitude. They attended all of the court sessions, and as more and more of our evidence, DNA from the rape kit and the sheets, pictures of the bruises he left on me and of the sheets themselves, was shown, and at my testimony, they admonished him. They sent my sister a message apologizing for his actions and sending me their sympathies. He has a sister from what I know, but I haven't seen her. She might be estranged or have little contact based on what my sister has told me. Comments. First, I'm so heartbroken that this happened to you. I am so proud of you for coming forward. That is outrageously difficult and not something everyone is able to do. I'm so very thankful your sister listened, believed you, and supported you. There are no words to adequately describe the strength and love you and your sister have shown. All my love. OP, thank you. I really wouldn't be anywhere without my sister. I had no idea of what to do or how to report it or anything. Thank you for your words of encouragement. Second, no the update I expected nor wanted, but I'm glad you got some form of justice. I really am praying for your recovery, honey. You didn't deserve that, and neither did your sister. I can only imagine how you feel, and I truly hope that you heal from all the hurt physically, mentally, and spiritually. Sending you and your sister so much love, PA. OP, thank you so much. I'm doing better every day. Smile. I was discriminated against all my life because of my golden child sister. Finally, I got my sweet revenge on my wedding day. I faced discrimination my entire life because of my golden child sister, and she even tried to walk down the aisle at my wedding. Finally, I got my revenge. My parents always favored my sister, and it was far from subtle. If she accused me of something, they'd believe her and punish me. But if I accused her, even with undeniable proof, they'd give her a lighter punishment and find a way to scold me too. My birthday cake always had to be her favorite flavor, and my parents pretend they didn't know I hated it. They always bought her more than me and took us where she wanted, even if it was supposed to be about me. My sister grew up spoiled and used me as a punching bag. At first, she mostly ignored me, but things got worse when we were teens. She ended up with no friends, and her behavior deteriorated. Did her friends move away or ditch her because she was mean? I don't know because we were never close. My parents boasted about her achievements but never mentioned any issues, whereas they constantly highlighted my flaws as teasing material. I only knew she had no friends because we went to the same school, and I noticed she was no longer with people. Meanwhile, I was fairly popular. My sister realized this and suddenly turned me from an occasional punching bag to someone she needed to take down constantly. She started accusing me and my friends of more things. My parents stopped letting me hang out with anyone, with excuses like, "They're not good people according to your sister," or "Why are you trying to leave us? Why can't you be like your sister and enjoy family time?" What saved me from complete isolation was my extended family. Most of them lived in the same hometown, and I got along well with my cousins despite some age differences. At one gathering, they invited me to something. I don't remember what, and I sadly replied that I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. When asked why, my kid self bluntly said it was because I wasn't allowed to have friends since my sister didn't have any. This got back to the adults, who apparently tore my parents apart later. I was scolded for lying and grounded for a month, but after that, they gave me some leeway, so it was worth it. My sister changed schools. I guess the humiliation of our extended family knowing her social status was too much, so she demanded to switch, and my parents immediately obliged. Even though it cost them more since the school was further away, she made friends at the new school. However, she never went back to mostly ignoring me. Having felt the power to mess with me and being angry that I told the family she had no friends, she never let me go. My life remained difficult. Her friends would come over and bully me, which my parents called light teasing. I never invited friends over because my parents were awful hosts, or my sister would accuse them of stealing, and my parents would believe her. I did become close to my cousins though, as my parents never dared to treat family that way. Then I got my first boyfriend. I didn't want to bring him home, but my parents insisted. At one point we were separated and he came to find me to tell me my sister was flirting with him. She came over in skimpy clothing, batting her eyelashes, and started telling him how bad I was and how good she was. He was irked and ran off to find me. Of course, my sister told my parents a different story, that my boyfriend had tried to flirt with her, but she naturally refused since she couldn't do that to me. Guess who my parents believed? My boyfriend wasn't perfect, but I immediately believed him for a mean reason. Remember, I was a teen suffering from unfair treatment. I was very resentful and moody and hated my sister as much as she hated me. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's talk about looks. I hadn't mentioned them yet because they weren't relevant. My parents were overweight and liked showing love via food, giving more food, buying treats, etc. My sister was also overweight, whereas I was not. I've always been kind of skinny because punishment often included no treats or snacks. Obviously, weight isn't what matters, personality is. But my sister, even then, was already rude and spoiled. Even her flirting attempts were bad because she never learned to work for anything since she could demand, and my parents would deliver. Added to that, the fact that she didn't look like some sexy model, even my self-conscious teen self didn't believe my boyfriend would try and cheat on me with her. Anyway, my parents prohibited me from dating such a horrible boy. I did try to keep going in secret, but it was hard, and the relationship ended. I did get another boyfriend, but again, my sister accused him of flirting with her when he refused her advances. Again, my parents believed her. I tried pointing out how this happened again, but they decided that I was incapable of making good choices and kept picking bad boyfriends. The relationship couldn't handle the Romeo-Juliet situation and fizzled out again. I would eventually get called a slut in high school as I was fine with making out with boys and such but refused to have relationships. Thankfully, it never got back to my sister or parents. My sister did bring one boyfriend home during all this time. He was paraded with pride, and my parents spent every second telling me how good he was and why I couldn't be like my sister and find myself someone like that. Until he stopped showing up and suddenly he was a conniving bastard that tricked my sister. Oh well, and the unequal treatment continued. At this time, she had more spending money, and her curfews were much better than mine. She was free to go anywhere at any time, while I couldn't. If I pointed it out, my parents would say it's because she's older, but when I reached that age, I still didn't have the same treatment she had. And when I pointed it out, they denied they ever said that or claimed it was because I couldn't be trusted like she was, using my sister's accusations against my boyfriends and friends as proof of my bad judgment. Time goes by, and it's time for my sister to graduate. She was accepted into a college, not a very well-regarded one, and she had no scholarship or anything. Again, because only her achievements were told to me, I don't know which colleges she even tried for, so I can't say how badly she was rejected. I do know her grades were bad in school though, because whenever she got a B, we would celebrate. I would usually get good grades, but my parents refused to celebrate, claiming since I always got those, what was there to celebrate? My parents naturally made a lot of fanfare and told her they'd pay for everything. I was relieved she'd be going away. Not that it made my life any easier. She'd always come home every other weekend and somehow stuff kept missing from my room, or some other issue she'd think of to make my life miserable. My curfews were still strict. Eventually, my mom came to talk to me about my impending graduation. I'm only a year younger than my sister. She told me that since they were paying for my sister's college, they had no money to pay for mine, so it would be better for me to start working immediately after graduation and wait until my sister finished university to see if they could afford something for me. Oh, and if I decided to stay at home, I'd have to pay for all my stuff, part of the bills and rent. I pointed out that I could get student loans. Mom said yes, except no, because they were so caring towards me and I had such bad judgment that they would decide if a college was worth my getting into debt or not. I'm not sure how they'd stop me from getting loans, but I didn't ask. Scholarships weren't mentioned. They had no idea what my grades were anymore and never believed in my capabilities anyway. I didn't bat an eyelid. I simply said okay. My mom clearly didn't expect that and kept prying. Maybe she hoped I'd throw a tantrum so they'd have an excuse to never pay for my college. But I said nothing except that I understood their position, thanked them for caring, and that was that. My dad later tried the same, but I also refused to be emotional. You see, after a whole lifetime of their terrible parenting, I never had any expectations towards my education. I knew they would find an excuse to not pay for mine and make my life miserable. I never believed they would eventually pay if I worked and waited for my sister to graduate. I had been preparing for college for a long time. I could barely go out, my friendships were slim, so I had a lot of time to study. And study I did because I saw college as my only chance to be free. Well, the time came, and I worked my ass off and got a scholarship. Not to anywhere like Ivy League or anything like law or medical school, but it was a good enough course in a decent college with a full scholarship. Knowing my sister would hate it and try to stop me via my parents, I put my achievement on social media at the same time I told them, even forcing myself to thank them in the post. Now they couldn't forbid me from going as they'd have to explain to the family why not. Initially, they were even a little proud and boasted about it, and then I guess my sister got to them and they changed gears and even asked me if I was sure I wanted to go. They let slip that my sister wasn't doing well in college, and since she was smarter and had better judgment than me, I'd suffer worse. I obviously stuck to my guns. They weren't happy but couldn't do anything. College was my savior. I started being happy. I still contacted my parents and visited on holidays and such, but since they refused to pay for anything, I could excuse not going a lot due to money. During this time, I avoided introducing any man to them, and my sister stopped going to college. I know she didn't graduate because, again, they'd have made a fanfare about it. She moved back home, paying no bills or rent, but it's different, my parents said, and started working at the same company as my mom, obviously thanks to my mom pulling strings. This was all presented to me as a point of pride. Almost there, I promise. I met my husband around this time. You know those people who say, if I were in that situation, I'd have done something. My husband is the type who actually does. I'm the type who is meek and a doormat in any situation and then can't sleep at night wishing I had done something, had thought of something witty to say, etc. I'm the person who can't help but cry when I'm angry. My husband is the guy who claps back immediately. He loves drama and loves to resolve it. He's the guy that if he doesn't immediately reply to a slight, you better start worrying because he won't forgive and forget. He's just doing something worse for revenge. He's the one who wanted me to post here and wanted to post on a nuclear revenge board too, but decided what we did wasn't nuclear. People were baffled that I got together with him, but just because I was incapable of acting like him due to my upbringing, it didn't mean I didn't like it. I love that my husband does what I can, and he treats people well as long as they do the same to him. When we discussed marriage, we decided we didn't care much about the ceremony due to our budget as we'd rather spend on a dream trip to Europe for our honeymoon. As for where to do it, since his family was spread out and mine was still mostly concentrated in my hometown, we decided to do it there. We weren't living too far off either, so we could take some long trips during the weekends to manage stuff. Plus, there was some work flexibility. so we could stay in my hometown for a bit too if needed. We sent out the engagement announcement and the save the date for a few months later. At this point, my parents naturally demanded to meet my man. I wanted to grow a spine and refuse, but was having a hard time. The distance had made me think maybe my parents weren't so bad. Well, my husband looked like I had canceled Christmas when I told him I would at least ensure they were never alone with him. See, he had been getting ready for this. He even bought a high-quality recorder he could hide in a pocket to record it all. He was stoked thinking of all the ways he could refuse my sister's advances, insult her, and then spread the recording of her attempts to my family. So off he went alone and excited to meet them, and came back later euphoric. Babe, you won't believe the awful things they wanted. Babe, we can screw them over so bad. There's so many possibilities. I was confused and wanted to hear the recording, but he smartly told me it was better to listen to him first or else I'd misunderstand him. Well, he went there, and instead of flirting, my parents and my sister sat him down. After some grumbling about not being okay with him, my judgment, etc., they proclaimed they were willing to pay for my wedding on one condition. My sister would walk down the aisle. My parents insisted that my sister would walk down the aisle at my wedding first, in a wedding dress. Their excuse was that it wasn't okay for a younger sister to marry first, so it was only fair if my sister at least had the experience of it, at my venue, with pictures being taken, in the dress, and she'd even have a cake later. My husband will now type his part. Hey, vengeful husband here. Hell hath no fury like a pro-revenge instant karma nuclear revenge lurker when his beloved is scorned. That said, as much as my wife, she's my wife now, paints me as this quick-witted dude, I admit my neurons all but short-circuited when those folks legit suggested that crap like some sort of great gift. Even Troy would rather take in the horse a second time. Me thinks. Alas, after my brain rebooted, I did have a whole list of insults ready to spew out, but something in my soul whispered in my ear like the devil, string these idiots along. So I said I needed to think, see how my wife, back then fiancé, would react, and then ran out of there before I could give away my nefarious plans. Back to me, the wife. So my husband sincerely recounted how my parents wanted even my wedding to be about my sister, with a grin on his face and the recording to prove it. I was shocked. The distance had softened how badly they treated me, and I thought even they wouldn't go so far. Thankfully, my husband insisting on the angle of revenge helped me not go to a bad headspace. We had a blast thinking up ways to screw them over, from ridiculously outlandish to what we thought was feasible. We then called his much more level-headed brother when we decided on a plan. It involved having 2 venue addresses, giving them the wrong one, etc. Well, the level-headed brother scolded us for it. While he acknowledged he would never be able to convince us to avoid retaliation, he at least showed us that something like that would be hard to pull off. Some of our other ideas were also at risk of getting us sued, so we eventually settled for the most benign plan. Act like we agreed, but then hire security and don't let her in. Obviously, if that was all, it wouldn't be pro-revenge. The rest is mostly my husband's doing, but he wants me to do the honors. So here goes. Just important to mention, everything he did was previously discussed with me, and they were our mutual ideas. He went back to my parents, said he probed and thought I wouldn't be down with it. However, he didn't see the issue and, not wanting the family to fall apart, would be down to help them do it. He pointed out that I don't like conflict, so if I was surprised with it, I might not throw a tantrum in front of all the people. On the other hand, marriage is a big thing, so who knew if I'd lash out? Thus, he suggested a compromise. They'd help pay for stuff. This way, I would feel even more pressure to not say anything, as not only would we be public with our families there, but I'd be grateful for the help they gave. He said my parents looked shocked, and my grown sister literally started skipping with joy like a kid, so it was accepted. Importantly, my husband also claimed that due to some bad judgment and past boyfriends, these words were all my idea, and I'm so proud of using their words against them. I was distrustful and controlling and liked to check his phone and stuff to ensure he wasn't cheating on me. As such, it was imperative that nothing of this plan was ever put in writing. For any discussion pertaining to my sister walking down the aisle before me, he'd go over to their house to talk. And so began the months of deception where my parents and sister thought they were tricking me, while my husband and I were milking them. Rather than paying for the wedding, they lay low. Of course, my parents wanted input in everything, including some things that meant a lot to me, like the songs and color palette. My husband would convince them to let it go to keep me in line, but since we never really cared for the ceremony to begin with, everything else was fair game. Or so they thought. Here's what we did. We'd go to check the drink and menu options and then accept the lowest or second lowest priced option. My husband would then secretly take my sister there to try it out and then sigh and say, "It's a pity we don't want to abuse my parents' goodwill, so we won't get the best options." Cue my sister demanding my parents pay for the best. My parents would then tell me not to worry and they'd pay for the most expensive option. The same was done with the photographer and flowers. My husband handed my sister a bouquet of the flowers we wanted and then sadly expressed how I wanted some other tasteless flowers. Cue my parents telling me they wanted us to go with said flowers and they'd pay for it. When it came to the wedding dress, we hit a minor snag. My parents wanted me to use a hideous dress. Okay, it wasn't outright hideous, but it wasn't my style and wouldn't look good on me. We had planned on saying yes and then simply not using it, but my mom sent me a message about it, so there'd be proof I said okay. We had to go with me refusing to text and standing my ground. My husband went over there and said he'd see what he could do. My sister suggested ruining my desired dress so I'd be forced to wear the other one. He pretended to agree. During all this time, they kept communications outside any text. We made sure that happened by having me reply to my sister when she tried messaging my husband. This solidified the uncontrolling and neurotic claims my husband was making, so they believed it and never risked anything in writing. Some people might not like the thought of their partner going around and talking badly about them to family, but I'm such a doormat that the thought of being painted as this controlling and dangerous person is extremely funny to me, and I egged him on to do it. I guess I have a warped sense of humor. Oh, and my sister did try to flirt with him, but he acted conflicted to really sell that he was with them. My husband would pretend to tell them things without my knowledge, but he never told them we hired security. It was really funny. My husband and I, who had sincerely considered a courthouse wedding to focus costs on our honeymoon, ended up having this extravagant, expensive wedding and barely spent a dime. We called it back to pay for emotional damages from my parents. I think my husband, okay, he just confirmed I'm right, was enjoying the whole trip more than planning our wedding. I didn't think it was possible to witness a guy beaming at the thought of wasting his whole Saturday doing a car trip to discuss wedding details with his in-laws, but here we are. Soon the day came. The plan my parents, sister, and husband had come up with was to wait until everyone was seated since the bride always comes out late. They'd have my sister arrive at that precise time to avoid me seeing her and trying to stop it, and she'd walk down the aisle. By the time I heard what happened, it would be too late to do anything. As for my dress, we saved some of the leftover fabric from my dress alterations. My husband took that to my parents' place. My sister still lives with them, and showed them as proof he'd ruined the dress, then said he had to go back to me as I was raging and he needed to calm me down. He told them he'd see them at the wedding. We made sure to keep our real security hidden initially. As the guests and my parents arrived, they only saw a woman with a list of names to check. Only after my parents had settled in did we bring out the actual security, a guy who looked like a bodyguard. We instructed him not to let my sister in and promised a generous tip if he kept our instructions confidential. Soon, the moment arrived. My parents got a text that my sister was less than 5 minutes away, so my dad signaled for the ceremony to start. My bridesmaids had been prepped to follow his lead, so they did without checking with me. After they all took their places, my dad stood at the entrance, waiting for me. During this, a friend not in the wedding party texted me to get ready, to avoid suspicion if my husband or bridesmaids started texting. This friend, my husband's ally, was as eager to stir drama as he was and didn't mind not being a bridesmaid. As soon as my dad took his position, the bridal song began. The doors opened and I entered. My dad was shocked to see me. He tried to look behind me but couldn't see the venue entrance from where we were, so he had no idea what had happened to my sister. Then his phone rang. I saw the caller ID, and it was her. He left me with a mumbled, "Something came up." Gasps and confusion filled the room. The friend on the plan loudly asked what happened. I lied and said tearfully, "He told me it wasn't supposed to be me there." My husband and I had agreed that if my dad abandoned me, I should say that to make him look as bad as possible. The tears weren't just acting. I was genuinely hurt and trying not to cry. The friend then loudly asked, "What did he mean by it shouldn't be you?" so that everyone could hear and spread it. Then she said, "I will go and check," and ran off. We planned this so she could create chaos with the security and prevent my dad from returning to stop the ceremony. Eventually, my mom also left. At this point, my husband's dad quickly ran over and took my arm. He'd been forewarned he might need to. His desperate run to me made me smile. I walked down the aisle to whispers as people discussed what had happened. Some left to check as well. When I reached my husband, all was well. He comforted me, joking that my sad face was so real I deserved an Oscar and reassured me he'd deal with my parents for what they did. We got married without any further issues. My parents didn't come back. I noticed a lot of people leaving and returning during the party, but no one dared tell me what was happening. Someone whispered in my husband's ear and he went out. He returned later with a thunderous expression but whispered to me that he needed to go hide before he broke character and started smiling. It worked. Here's the summary from friends, family, the security guy, and my husband that I got afterwards. My sister arrived in a wedding dress. The security refused to let her in as we had agreed. He told her she must be at the wrong venue because there was already a bride. Yes, we tipped him very well as promised. My dad tried threatening him with the police, claiming he'd never heard of him, so he couldn't be working there. The security agreed to call the police since he was hired by us and was just doing his job. My dad realized it would be too late and tried to demand that he let my sister in. At this point, the friend came over, started shouting and insulting my sister, and asking what was going on, basically stalling. My mom soon arrived, followed by others. By then, the wedding plan was ruined. All my parents could do now was damage control, as everyone who learned about it was horrified they'd try to pull it off. People started screaming and berating them. The three naturally said it wasn't a secret and blamed my husband. When he was called over, my husband put on his best confused look and denied everything. To quote him, gaslight, gatekeeper, girl boss, LOL. He denied ever agreeing to such a ridiculous plan. When they insisted he demanded proof, and of course, they couldn't provide any. All the text exchanges they could show were about normal wedding decisions. My sister was crying and apparently sat on the floor kicking her legs like a child. My dad looked like he wanted to hit my husband, but security and other people held him back. Naturally, they claimed they had no proof because my husband told them not to text. My husband laughed and said, "Wow, how convenient, huh?" Then he repeated, "Why would I ever agree to something so messed up?" He ripped into them about being terrible parents and said he wasn't going to let their stupid plans and lies ruin his wedding, then went back to me. No one believed them. The venue had cameras, but they wouldn't show me the recording as it was only for security purposes. However, some people filmed parts of it. Watching my parents and sister get torn apart by everyone who came out to see the drama was delightful. After years of being accused of things and not being believed, seeing them get a taste of their own medicine was one of the best wedding gifts. My mother was crying, my dad kept changing from purple to white, and my sister was still on the floor crying and screaming. They kept insisting that my husband was in on it, but people kept asking why he would agree, why there was no proof, and why they wanted my sister to do this at my wedding. They had no good answers. Eventually, they were told to leave and had no choice but to do so. My dad apparently had to drag my sister up as she refused to leave the ground. Again, people said nothing to me all night. I guess they wanted to spare me, and maybe it's because I was the bride and not just a guest for once, but it did feel like everyone was making an extra effort to be nice, positive, and excited about everything. My husband says all the expensive food and drinks they were eating certainly helped, LOL. We had a blast. My husband kept up the forced angry face for only a short while before breaking out in smiles again. After that, we went to the hotel to catch some sleep before heading off on our honeymoon. Speaking of which, my parents did try to pay for our plane tickets, but we thought that was risky as they could try to cancel them or something, so we refused. Since then, the three of them have tried to contact me. I've refused calls because my husband insisted on keeping a paper trail, a smart move because my sister eventually messaged me. I won't repeat what she said as it was very unhinged and didn't make much sense, but the important part was that she blamed me for her humiliation. Called my husband a two-faced snake who fooled them for months. He wants to print and hang that on our wall, LOL, and hoped, but was also certain, that I'd get cheated on by him. She even suggested he was cheating on me with her. My husband took my phone, screenshot the call logs, my sister's messages, and some messages from my parents demanding I pick up the phone, and sent it all to our family group chat. He also sent screenshots of messages to him where they called him names and threatened him, but he kept up the "you're delusional, I never agreed to anything" shtick and even threatened to sue them for defamation and harassment. He wrote a message in the group chat begging my family for help as I was now being harassed by them constantly. He pleaded with them to stop my parents and sister from ruining our honeymoon after they failed to ruin our wedding. He ended with a request that they not share our locations to prevent my parents from sending my sister over and claiming he had somehow agreed to pretend to sleep with her in our honeymoon suite, LOL. My family assured him they'd handle it, and since then, we've had peace. My husband is a bit disappointed that my sister didn't disobey so he could call her out again while tearing her a new one. We'll see if the peace lasts. All in all, while I would have preferred a normal, loving family at my wedding, at least for once in my life they not only failed to ruin something meaningful to me, but I got back at them. Extra info. Do I know why they treat me like this? I've been asked this question a lot, so I assume you all will wonder the same. I've pondered this all my life and still don't know. I tried asking when I was young, but they denied any difference and scolded me for being spoiled, so I stopped trying. I've considered many possibilities, but based on my observations, I think it's this. I was unplanned. They took a while to have my sister, so she was not only wanted but also like a miracle child after so long. However, given our small age difference, I think they didn't expect to have another child so soon or easily and didn't use adequate protection after my sister's birth. Maybe they didn't realize my mom was pregnant until it was too late, so they were saddled with an unplanned baby while still dealing with a newborn. They're not well off, so having the extra expense likely didn't help, and they resented me. But that's just my conjecture. Regardless, I've accepted that the reason won't truly matter. What they did to me was unwarranted, no matter what. Did they really think this would work? My husband and I have a theory that they never intended to do this at all. We think my sister threw a tantrum over me getting married first when she barely gets dates, and they made my husband that outlandish proposition. They didn't want to pay for my wedding and didn't think we'd accept or that it would even look good for them to do it. By suggesting it and being refused, they could look like the good guys to my sister while having an excuse not to give me a dime. But then my husband accepted it, and they couldn't backtrack without risking my sister turning on them. Am I the A for forcing my family to babysit for me? Why does my family expect me to babysit for my sister for free but get upset when asked to help? June 13, 2024. I'm 19 and living at home, working a part-time job, doing some freelance work, and taking online courses to prepare for college next year. My 25-year-old sister had her first child 8 months ago. The father isn't involved and only pays child support. My mom is excited to have her first grandchild and is constantly offering to look after the baby so my sister can feel at ease working full-time and afterwards, will have some time for herself to relax. The thing is, about 70% of the time I'll be the one looking after the baby, and while I admit that I enjoy it and like spending time with him, I can't help but feel mad because they don't have any consideration for my time. Mom would drop the baby while I'm in the middle of my lessons because you can always watch the recordings later, or just ask someone to tell you what it was about. Or when I'm working in my freelance stuff because looking after the baby doesn't really require much, when I complain about getting delayed in my projects. My breaking point happened last week when my mother and sister left the baby with me for a whole day because I mistakenly told them I didn't have to work and would be staying at home to catch up with some pending stuff and study. I told them both I was irresponsible and they called me a spoiled brat. That night, my grandma and other members of the extended family were calling and sending me messages about the importance of helping family, and to understand that my sister doesn't have it easy being a single mom. I got mad and sent a message to the family group chat saying that they were right. Helping family is important and we all should be supportive of my sister. I then proceeded to write a schedule in which all of us could take care of the baby. Because one aunt goes to visit grandma on Mondays and Wednesdays mornings, they could babysit those days. Friday afternoon, the eldest cousin and her siblings are at their residence. They could watch the kids at that time, and so on. I left early on Saturday mornings and late on Tuesday nights to watch the kids. The arrangement made my mom and sister very happy, but not so much about the other family. And when someone pointed out that my sister didn't get the baby for a whole day, discussions about my sister being an irresponsible mother started, with my mother trying to defend her. Am I the A for causing this? How come they were expecting me to be my sister's unpaid nanny, but then they get offended when the same thing is being forced on them? I may be the asshole because I caused this and don't regret it one bit. Relevant comments. Commenter, not the A. You aren't a spoiled brat. Your sister is a spoiled brat. She chose to bring a child into this world thinking other people would parent him for her. The only person responsible for this baby is your sister. OP, I blame that on our mom. When my sister told us she was pregnant and that the father would be involved, our mother assured her if she kept the baby, then she would help her whenever she needed, as she's already retired and, like I said, was excited to have her first grandchild. Commenter, if your mom assured her that she would be the one to help her whenever she needs it, why is she turning around and dumping the baby on you instead? OP, I might have a theory on that. Long before my sister got pregnant, my mom, sister and I were talking about the future, and the topic of marriage and kids came up. I must have been around 14 at the time, and I proclaimed that I wanted to be child-free. Mom didn't take it too seriously then and said, "You'll change your mind when you grow up." I haven't changed my mind. I believe that she is trying to persuade me that babies and kids aren't all that horrible since, on occasion, when I babysit, she would say things like, "Oh, I would make a great mother, and I'm so good with kids." But I'd prefer not to. Although I enjoy being an aunt and was quite happy to have a nephew, the incessant babysitting exhausted me. Being under pressure like this isn't helpful, but I might decide against having children in the future. Adoption or surrogacy are options I'm considering, and I'm sure my mom would approve of either choice. Sis getting a nanny or babysitter. I already suggested hiring a nanny several times, but my sister claims that she wouldn't feel at ease leaving her child with a stranger. I then agreed to babysit certain days according to my schedule, but they wouldn't respect it. I did get paid to babysit a few times, but they would make a big deal out of it and I would end up feeling guilty, so I stopped asking for any payment. Commenter, not the A. It's nice to help out every now and then when you can, but you have a life too. Your family shouldn't expect you to babysit and just be fine with it when you clearly have a busy schedule, and now that they have a taste of their own medicine all of a sudden it's a problem. OP, I think most of the problem is that they don't consider what I do aside from my part-time job, a tutor at a children's academy, worthy of being busy. I work as a freelance editor of audio and video, but they just see me as being on my laptop just because, and I take Spanish courses 4 times a week, along with audio engineering stuff 3 times a week. Both require me to do homework and in the latter case, work on projects. But they still don't consider that a big deal, and I'm honestly too tired of explaining to them why both are important. Commenter, I absolutely love this. Well done. How much time off from the child does your sister get at present? OP, I think it is easier to tell you how much time my sister gets with the baby. She's a paralegal at a law office, works from 8 to 5 Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Between commuting and she and mom saying she needs time to eat and rewind, she gets the baby around 7 p.m. Thursdays are home office days, but because home office is still work, she won't watch the baby until the evening. On weekends, she'll take care of the baby on Saturday evenings and Saturday mornings unless she goes out for brunch or coffee with her friends, which isn't every Saturday, to her credit. Sundays are split half and half. We usually spend the first half of the day with extended family, and in the evening, the paternal grandparents visit to bond with my nephew. So, objectively, she does not really spend a lot of time alone with baby. Commenter, that was a beautiful way to address that. Everyone always says family until it comes back to them. OP, hahaha, thank you. I admit I got the inspiration after reading several Reddit posts and comments dealing with similar issues. What if I did, was how I felt. And while I don't particularly regret choosing that path, I worry a little bit that I may have gone too far. The family is having a lengthy conversation about this, as I mentioned, to another commenter. Honestly, I wasn't being all that serious. I mostly was angry and just wanted to prove my point. But given how it all blew up was way more than what I hoped for. Update, same post, June 20th, 2024, 1 week later. Okay, a lot has happened. Honestly, I'm still not in the mood to provide a full update. The main points are, my sister did try to impose the babysitting schedule I made, and the family wasn't happy. Mom, my sister and I had a big discussion, and hurtful things were said on both sides. I'm currently staying with my best friend and his girlfriend, who are total sweethearts, but it's not a feasible long-term arrangement, even though they have said I could stay with them as long as I need. The family is complaining non-stop, and I'm feeling guilty because, technically, I'm the one who caused this by creating the schedule in the first place. Maybe I should have just sucked it up. I really feel sorry for my nephew. Sundays are when the whole family comes together, and this Sunday my mom's eldest sister, my grandma's eldest daughter, is traveling from out of state. This is significant since she is, in a positive sense, the matriarch of the family and grandma's golden child. I'm anxious as well as hopeful. If anyone can solve this mess, it's her, but at the same time, I'm worried she'll blame me like everyone else. I'll provide a full update then. Also, sorry for not having the time to answer all the comments and private messages. Like I said, a lot of things happened. But here's some of the questions some people asked. 1. My relationship with my mom and sister was pretty good before my sister got pregnant. My sister and I always knew that she was more favored by our mom because they had more common interests, while I had a similar bond with my dad. This wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Think it more of it if one of us wanted to visit a friend or a specific favor, we knew which parent to ask. We would actually team up sometimes to convince them of something, me appealing to dad and sis to mom. Sadly, dad passed away 5 years ago. He was an amazing father and we were absolutely heartbroken, but the one good thing that came out of it was that it helped us bond. Dad loved classical music and was really into IT and programming. I would go to concerts with him and he got me into gaming. After his passing, Mom began to buy tickets to classical concerts and the 3 of us would go together as a way to remember him. We also went to watch Super Mario movie because my dad would have loved to be there, even if sis and mom knew little of the franchise. So, things going this bad makes me pretty sad. 2. My job. I work part-time at a kids' after-school academy, where we tutor them in subjects they find difficult and help them with their homework and test preparation. My freelance job involves video and audio editing for my best friend and his girlfriend. Both are streamers and content creators. They know about my Reddit post but asked me to leave out their personal details, so please don't ask for their accounts. I create one weekly video for her and 1 or 2 for him. 3. Do I pay rent? No, I don't. Dad had a hard time with his family, and while my sis and I didn't know the details and were no contact with them, we kind of imagined what went down. Mom promised to keep the house safe for my sister and me when Dad left it to her. They decided to accept us for paying rent as long as we cover our expenses ourselves. Sister and I cover our groceries, cell phones, and some services, and I pay part of their gas whenever they give me a ride because I don't have a car. 4. Extended family. As I mentioned, we have no contact with Dad's family. Mom, who is 50 years old, is the third of 4 siblings, the eldest aunt, the eldest uncle, deceased, who was the father of the cousins I mentioned in my first post, and the youngest uncle, who is 39 years old and single. Grandma is currently 77 years old. 5. My nephew's dad. He and my sister were together for about 2 years. When she found out she was pregnant and decided to keep the baby, the relationship ended because he is child-free. A paternity test was conducted after my nephew was born, confirming he was the father. He pays child support but has no contact with the baby. His parents, my nephew's paternal grandmother and grandfather, do keep in touch. From what I was told, they and the rest of their family didn't approve of his actions regarding my sister and nephew. So far, they don't know what's going on, and I didn't involve them in the initial babysitting schedule because I'm sure that would have caused another whole mess. Update post, June 26, 2024, 6 days later, 13 from original post. I'm not sure how to post an update. If you want to know the full story, it is my profile. There's an edit there with some more relevant information and questions you asked. A lot of things happened and I'm finally in the mood to write the update, so here it goes. My sister followed the babysitting schedule I set up, which involved our extended family, and they were not happy. 2 days after my post, she left my nephew with one of our aunts. The aunt had plans to meet some friends for brunch and had to take the baby with her. The baby was fussy and crying, so she had to come home early. Understandably, the aunt was upset. I had agreed to babysit the next day, and that's when things started to go downhill. My nephew is usually comfortable with me, but this time he was very fussy and coughing, which seemed odd. Mom wasn't home, and I tried calling her, but she didn't answer until about 2 hours later. When she finally came home and checked on my nephew, he had a slight fever. Of course, we called my sister, and she blamed our aunt for taking the baby out, questioning how she could have a life while being forced to babysit. She accused our aunt in the family chat, sparking a huge argument. Suddenly, my mom and sister remembered that I was the one who involved the whole family with the babysitting schedule and blamed me. That was my breaking point. I ended up yelling at my sister, calling her negligent and a part-time mother to my nephew. Not my proudest moment, and I immediately regretted it, not going to lie. My mother countered by saying that if my dad, who passed away 5 years ago, could hear me, he would have been very disappointed in me. That really hurt because I was very close to him, and he always put family above everything. Still, I was mad and said that I expected my sister to reimburse me the amount I took from my college fund in full. Again, not my proudest moment, and I immediately regretted it, not going to lie. Some background. When my sister and I were born, Dad and Mom set up a college fund for each of us. Dad always encouraged us to study and improve ourselves. When my nephew was born, I took $5,000 from my fund to start one for him in honor of my dad, as I'm sure he would have done the same. After that, I packed a bag and took an Uber to my best friend's apartment. I told him what happened, and he and his girlfriend invited me to stay with them as long as I needed. I blocked my mother, sister, and the rest of the family, spending the following days both avoiding them and worrying about my nephew. Last Friday, I received a call from an unknown number. It was one of my eldest aunt's daughters. She and her family live in another state, so they mostly followed the drama from afar. My cousin told me they were coming to visit and my aunt was going to have a serious talk with all of us. Not going to lie, I was really nervous. I think I mentioned this in my previous post. My mom, who's 50 years old, is the third of 4 siblings. We'll call them Rose, eldest aunt, Mario, eldest uncle, deceased, father of the cousins I mentioned in my first post, my mom, and John, youngest uncle. There's also Jane, Mario's widow, and the aunt I mentioned in this post who took out the baby. Rose is pretty much my grandma's golden child in a good way. She's the second mother to her siblings and overall a very strong woman. She and her husband have 5 adopted children, and due to their complicated logistics, my uncle and 2 of his sons are doctors, and the youngest of that set of cousins is in college. Hearing that they are suddenly coming over was a very big deal. Sunday arrived, and my best friend and his girlfriend accompanied me to my grandma's house for moral support. Rose and her family were already there, and I spent most of the time avoiding my mom and sister. Deep down, I knew my mom wouldn't dare to yell or confront me in front of Rose, as she's afraid of making her angry. After a few hours, Rose finally addressed the elephant in the room. It was a long emotional discussion, and we all ended up crying. I'll sum up the main points. 1. Baby nephew is a human being, not a stray puppy to be passed around. He needs some stability. 2. Stop with the if you couldn't afford to or didn't want a child, why did you have one? Comments. My nephew is here, and he's not going anywhere, so let's focus on solutions. 3. To my sister. As a mother, you need to learn to put your child first. While it's okay to rely on help sometimes, don't do it all the time. It's bad for the baby and burdens others involved. 4. To my mother. Stop enabling her. 5. To the rest of the family. Unless you're willing to offer some solutions, don't meddle in other people's affairs. 6. To me, about the babysitting schedule. Well done, kiddo. And I cried in relief. My sister then admitted that while she loves my nephew, she felt unfit to be a mother and wasn't fully conscious of the responsibility it would take to raise him. Apparently, my mother was aware of that, and her response was to make me babysit my nephew in order to make my sister feel less stressed out. And yes, to make me hopefully change my mind about having kids in the future. Rose also talked to Mom about that. Rose then said that, worst case scenario, she and my cousins talked and either her eldest son and daughter were willing to adopt my nephew. Apparently, both discussed it with respective spouses and all on board if it came to that. To be honest, while it is good that my nephew would be in a loving and safe home, Rose and my cousins are amazing people. It would hurt not seeing him as often anymore. Rose emphasized to my sister to think it carefully and that if it came to that, it would be a permanent adoption, not a daycare service where she could dump him for days, weeks, and then pick him up later. That's mainly it. My sister will be seeing a therapist next week. Mom and I have apologized, and I clarified I didn't actually want to be reimbursed for the money in my nephew's college fund. And some members of the extended family also apologized for pressuring me to babysit in the first place. I'm back at my house and have compromised to babysit 3 times a week, all according to my personal schedule and for a reasonable period of time. During one of those 3 times, my sister will be joining me, as she admitted she felt she didn't really know my nephew and haven't really bonded with him. So, since the baby is somewhat attached to me, the 3 of us will be spending some time together. Overall, I think it was a good resolution, but time will tell. I really hope my sis will improve and be the mom my nephew deserves. Thank you all for the support and the comments. Whenever I felt that what I did was wrong, your comments really helped to lessen the guilt, and some of you even make me laugh. Hopefully, this will be my last update. So, thank you all. When a girl in the gym asked for help while recording, I refused, sparking an unexpected turn of events. Was I wrong? I think I acted rudely with a girl in the gym and wanted to get opinions on if I was the AH in this situation. I, 41M, go to the gym early in the morning around 5:30 a.m. There are generally very few people that come to the gym at that time. There is a girl, early 20s, that also comes to the gym at the same time. We always say hello to each other and have small talk between our sets. She comes in early because the gym is empty, and she likes to record herself working out as she wants to be a fitness influencer or something. She seems dedicated, and we have known each other for at least a year. This morning, as I was working out, she came to me and asked for help. She was very excited and told me that she wanted to go for a PR on barbell squat. She asked me if I could spot her, as she was not confident if she would be able to do it. I said okay, as this is not the most uncommon thing. For people who are unfamiliar, this is an exercise where you carry a barbell with weights on your back and perform a squat. The spotter has to stand behind the person and support the person in case they fail to get up. As she was getting ready, I saw her phone in the corner and asked her if I could be off camera or if she can stop recording. She said she really wanted to record herself doing it, and I will look good on camera. I told her that I really do not want to be on camera, as my wife or co-workers may watch the video if she posts it online and may not look good for me. Another reason that I did not tell her was that she was wearing a very revealing outfit, small sports bra and tight shorts, and I really did not feel comfortable being recorded standing behind her. She promised me that she will record it for herself and not post the video. However, I just did not want to be recorded. I told her that I really feel uncomfortable. and if she waits for 30 minutes, one of the trainers may be able to help her. She became really upset and asked me why I'm making the situation weird. She accused me of sexualizing her. She asked me if she was a man, would I have done it? I felt she had a point as I have done it for other people. I told her that I would be okay doing it, but I just don't want to be recorded doing it. She again went on a rant about me body shaming her and me being uncomfortable with her perfectly fine outfit. I felt bad that I upset her as she was just trying to work out. I have also asked people to spot me in past, and people always helped. However, I just did not want to be recorded. Am I the to refuse to spot her because she was recording it? I don't want her to feel that it was because of her clothes, or because she is a girl. However, as a married man, I need to observe some boundaries and really don't want to be recorded in that way with a girl half my age. I am also worried that she recorded our whole conversation and may post it online. I do not know what I should do in this situation and am a bit worried. Relevant comments. Commenter, NTA. People who are pointing out the line of how you think it would look inappropriate if a coworker or wife saw you aren't familiar with lifting. If she reached failure, it would absolutely look bad on you, because people don't understand what spotting and having to assist with squats looks like. OP, that was exactly what went through my mind. Plus, who knows what commentary someone can put on top of those videos to make it go viral. Update. I had posted on a different forum 3 weeks ago about me refusing to help a girl in the gym for spotting her barbell squat because she was recording us. I did not think it would blow up so much that my wife got this story on her TikTok. What happened after was pretty unexpected and my life is a bit absurd right now. I was worried that she would post our conversation about me refusing her help online and show me as the bad guy. I told my wife about the conversation, and she said that she has seen posts where young girls do add nasty voiceovers and make men my age look like creeps for views. My wife told me that I should just complain to the gym management about her for recording me without my consent, just to get ahead of things. When I went to the gym next week, I saw her again. I tried to keep my distance, but she kept on smiling at me. As I finished my sets, she came to me and asked me if we could talk. She wanted to apologize for her behavior from the previous day and how it was wrong of her to assume that I would be okay with her recording me. It was a pleasant surprise, as I was not expecting that. I told her that it was okay, and I just don't like to be recorded in general. She followed me outside and continued the conversation. She asked me how long I have been working out and I could advise her on her form. I told her that there are some really good personal trainers in the gym I could recommend to her, but she told me that she is unemployed and cannot afford them. She told me she will buy me a coffee if I can give her some pointers. At this point, I felt I was just being rude and told her sure, and we went to a nearby coffee shop. Her name is Haley. She graduated last year, moved back to her mom's house and is looking for a job. She was very chubby last year and wants to look like the TikTok fitness models and is trying hard to get in shape. We had a nice conversation, and I was able to help her with some of her questions. She already knew my name and asked me if my wife would be okay if she follows me on Instagram. I told her that the main purpose of that account is for my wife to spy on my friends' lives, so I generally don't use it. She asked me if I use Snapchat, and I had to remind her that I am twice her age. This is where it got crazy. When I came home, I told my wife about what happened. My wife loves her Reels and TikTok and wanted to see if she ever posted the video from the previous week. I only knew that her first name was Haley and how she looked and told my wife about it. When I came back from work in the evening, my wife was already home and sitting on the sofa. She was grinning ear to ear and told me to immediately sit next to her. Apparently, this girl had been posing about me and calling me her gym crush for the last 2 months. My face is blurred out in all the videos. A lot of videos were of her sitting in her car every morning and making up completely fictional romantic stories about our interactions. Each video had like 100 plus likes, which my wife says is not a lot, but feels like a lot. She had posted some videos of us just passing each other and smiling, or our conversation where I was telling her to stop recording, with a voiceover about how I approached her in the gym and complimented her body. There was a video from that morning about her coming to me while I was packing up, with her saying how I asked her out for a coffee. She is just making up fictional romantic bullshit for getting likes, and people were commenting and cheering for her. There were also other videos of her working out and posing in the gym locker room. My wife was laughing uncontrollably about how big of a sucker I am and how I'm internet famous now. I told her this needs to stop, but my wife insisted that she is too invested in the drama now and wants to see what happens next. She said that this girl is really young and just trying to establish herself and get more followers. Plus, she has not done anything inappropriate and is not showing my face in the videos. My wife just wants me to play along and see what crazy Haley does next. So for the last 2 weeks, I have been going to the gym, talking to her every day, and my wife keeps me updated on what story she came up with for the day. We go for a coffee every Wednesday, and I am mentoring her about nutrition and what she should focus on, to the best of my abilities. It's all a game for my wife, and I do want Haley to succeed as long as she does not cross a line. However, the whole thing feels really crazy, and I'm too old to deal with this shit. I am not sure how long I can keep up with the act. Her behavior seems innocent, but also, I'm getting a bit uncomfortable with the whole thing now. Relevant comments. Did the girl know OOP is married? OP, yes. She knows I'm married. I wear my ring in the gym, and also I talk about my wife all the time to her. I also feel it's a bit weird for a 22-year-old person to make up stories. My wife feels she is just using me as an NPC in her fiction to gain more viewers and create drama. We discussed it, and she told me about how some girls just make up stories about bad first dates on TikTok as it gets them a lot of views. My wife feels it's weird, but I need to see the humor in this situation. At least it's entertaining, and she wants to know where her story goes next. What was all about in the coffee discussion? OP, what are the coffee discussions like? It seems weird for her to do that. If it is just for TikTok attention, it's easier for her to make stuff up. The coffee discussions are very fitness oriented, and she genuinely has legit questions. We do discuss stuff about our lives, mostly hers, and she shares her struggles in getting a job and life in general for a Gen Z person. However, she has never said anything inappropriate. I feel she must have had some footage of me passing her and smiling and greeting her and just used that in her edits. Our autistic son committed suicide, and the other children blamed us. We don't know what to do. This is an Am I the Asshole post as well as an asking for advice. Sorry for the long text, but please read the whole thing as there are many important details in it that I couldn't fit into the TLDR. My husband, 59, and I, 50, have had 3 children: James, 27, Kate, 23, and Stephen, 20. When he was 6, Stephen got diagnosed with autism, and we did everything to accommodate him and get help. He kept saying that he doesn't want any help and wants to be treated like a normal person. We always tried to reassure him that he needs it to achieve the same results as other kids, and he should accept himself and be proud and not listen to society or other people. By the way, everyone was always super accepting and did their best to accommodate. But Stephen wouldn't listen and said that he's as competent as other people, and was it before he got diagnosed, and we started treating him like a subhuman too. Whenever someone would try to help him, he immediately started to explain that he doesn't want or need any help and came up with excuses. As he grew older, Stephen distanced himself from other people because he didn't want anyone to know him as an autistic person. He even asked us to let him change schools and not tell anyone at the new school about his condition, which we of course didn't allow. By the time he was in his early teens, he fell into a really bad depression and became suicidal, but refused to take medication or go to therapy to treat it because at that point he wouldn't accept any help from anyone at all, even if it wasn't for his autism. Stephen claimed that the cause of his depression was the special treatment everyone gave him, and he just wanted to live as a normal person. He tried to make a compromise that if we let him go to a different school where no one knows about his autism and stop treating him differently, he will get treatment for his depression. By then, James, Kate, and a few of Stephen's teachers were encouraging us to let him do it, but we still said no. When Stephen was 15, he attempted to kill himself by hanging. At 18, he finished school, got accepted into his dream university, moved out, and cut off contact with my husband and me. He still kept talking to his siblings. He left us an angry goodbye letter in which he claimed that we ruined 12 years of his life, that we are the reason why he's still depressed and suicidal, and that he hates us with a passion. He said that now he finally won't be known as a crazy, stupid, and awkward person who needs help for everything, and can lead a normal life. We tried to call him and sent him letters and emails, but he didn't answer. Recently, we visited him at his university, but he wouldn't talk to us and eventually threatened to get a restraining order, after which we immediately left. We haven't heard much about him since then, but from what his siblings told us, he was doing better now, although he still suffered from depression. Anyway, today he committed suicide. From what we know, he overdosed on medication. Kate, who told us the sad news, says that we shouldn't have given Stephen any special treatment, or at least stopped when he told us to, and that by treating him differently, we basically drove him into suicide. She said that we've failed as parents, and she will consider cutting contact with us too because she doesn't want people like us as parents. James agreed with her and said that we should at least acknowledge our mistake. Kate packed her stuff and left shortly after. She originally planned to stay for New Year's too, saying that if we want to keep a relationship with her, we should admit what we did wrong and learn from it. We, however, think that it's the fault of society with its standards and expectations, and Stephen's own fault because he wouldn't accept any help. We're absolutely devastated. Is Stephen's suicide really our fault, and what can we do to save what's left of our family? TLDR, Our son was diagnosed with autism as a child. We got all the help we could, but he didn't want it. In his teens, he became depressed and suicidal. He cut contact with us when he moved out. Today we found out he killed himself, and our children say that it's our fault. Our daughter threatens to cut contact as well. Are we really to blame for his death, and what should we do? Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son who took his life almost a year ago. Posted November 28, 2022. Tomorrow would have been the 21st birthday of our son who took his life almost a year ago. My husband and I, 60M and 51F, have had 3 children. Stephen, 20M, Kate, 24F, and James, 27M. At the age of 6, Stephen got diagnosed with autism, and we did everything we could to get help and accommodations. Everyone was super accepting and did their best to accommodate, and we always told him to be proud and not care about social norms. But Stephen still refused to accept any help and demanded that we stop treating him like a subhuman. No matter how many times we told our son that he needs help to get on the same level as other children, he wouldn't accept it. As he was approaching his teens, he gradually isolated himself from the world. He had no friends, no hobbies, and avoided spending time with us, although he didn't mind spending it with his siblings. He avoided other kids at school, and as soon as he got home, he would lock himself up in his room and only went out when absolutely necessary. When he was 10, he also began to refuse to celebrate his birthday because it reminded him that yet another year has gone by and everything is still just as bad. He ended up getting depression and suicidal thoughts and blamed it on the special treatment we gave him. We tried to get Stephen therapy and antidepressants, but he refused because at that point he wasn't accepting any help at all, even for things that had nothing to do with his autism. When he was 15, he tried to kill himself by hanging, but luckily, he survived. Stephen tried to make a deal that if we let him go to a different school where no one knew that he is autistic, he would accept treatment for his depression. And even a few of his teachers as well as his siblings told us to let him do that. But we didn't allow that because we didn't think that he would get through school without help. Right after graduating school, he was 18 at the time, our son got accepted into his dream university, the University of Oxford, and moved out. We didn't even know that he had applied to university and only found out from the goodbye letter he left. It was a very angry and hateful letter. He said that we ruined 12 years of his life and went on a rant about how much he hates us. He cut off all contact to us, but kept talking to James and Kate, and blocked us everywhere. We tried to contact Stephen from other numbers, emails, and sent him letters, but he never answered. According to our other children, he was studying chemistry and biology. He always expressed an interest in those and science in general growing up, and in his last years with us also said that he wanted to get a PhD and become either a pharmacologist or an organic chemist, although we thought that would be too hard for him, and had even made some friends. My husband and I visited him at university at the beginning of last November, but he wouldn't talk to us and even said that he will get a restraining order against us if we don't leave him alone. About a month after that, he attempted suicide again, this time by overdosing on medication, and unfortunately, he succeeded. Kate blamed us for his death, saying that he repeatedly told us how much he didn't want to be treated differently, but we never listened. She has since also cut off contact because she couldn't and didn't want to forgive us for killing her brother. Our other son has also been visiting and talking to us much less since then. In just a couple of months, we have lost pretty much all of our children. We tried to distract ourselves, but with Stephen's birthday coming up, we could only think of him and our other children, even if they have abandoned us and he didn't like to celebrate his birthday. How do we get our daughter to talk to us again? Posted December 12, 2022. We miss him so much. Our 60M and 51F daughter Kate, 24F, completely stopped talking to us about 10 months ago. She did it because, according to her, we are to blame for her younger brother's 21M suicide, which happened about 1.5 months prior to Kate cutting off contact to us. However, at the time of his suicide, he has already also been no contact with us for over a year. He left for university, stopped talking to us, and blocked us everywhere immediately after graduation, and we didn't even know he had applied for university. With the exception of one time when we visited him at university, and even then he didn't talk to us. Kate's other brother, 27M, still regularly talks to her, and we've tried to get her to talk to us again, but he refuses because he thinks that Kate doesn't have to talk to us if she doesn't want to, and he also believes that our youngest killed himself because of us, even though it doesn't make any sense. She doesn't talk to any of her other relatives. We've reached out to her on social media, but she didn't answer, and although we knew where she lived until recently, we visited, but she was never home. According to her brother, she has moved to NYC this September because she enrolled into a PhD program at some university there. So we don't even know where she lives now. What can we do to get Kate to talk to us again? My husband's drinking problem is getting out of control. What can I do? Posted December 18, 2022. My 51F husband, 60M, has had a drinking problem for somewhat over 2 years now. He usually drinks vodka and occasionally wine and has 5 shots of vodka on weekdays and sometimes up to a whole bottle on weekends. When he drinks wine, it's even more, and he will even have an entire bottle during the week. When he's drunk, he is extremely angry, and although he doesn't get physically aggressive, he screams and yells a lot, and I basically don't get any real time with him, with the exception of the occasional few hours on a weekend, because he gets drunk as soon as he gets home on workdays and often starts drinking by around noon on weekends as well. His drinking problem comes in waves. With my help, he has managed to get it under control multiple times, and although he would still drink almost every day, it was usually nowhere near enough to get him drunk, but it always gets worse again. He only began intensively drinking about 2 years ago when our youngest applied to university without us knowing and then cut us off when he went off to said university. My husband felt very angry and betrayed, and he still is, and that's when he resorted to alcohol. Before that, he would only drink on special occasions like holidays, parties, and date nights, and even then he almost never had enough to get drunk. I feel like I've lost him since his drinking problem began, at least during the waves when it's really bad, because he's drunk most of the time and then all he does is just scream around. What can we do to end his drinking problem? I lost points in an English class debate for stimming, which my teacher found distracting. As someone with ASD, this felt unfair. I'm gonna sound annoyed in this post because, well, I am so mad about this, mainly because of both the conversation after as well. We had a debate in my English class. Okay, great. I need better skills in public speaking. I'm fine that I lost points from bad speaking skills, but what I'm mad about is the fact that I lost points on stimming. I didn't even know that was something he could take off, but he did. And that just seems unfair. He said it was distracting and he couldn't focus on what I was saying because I kept rocking back and forth and slightly punching the podium, which made too loud of a sound, etc. I don't think this is fair, like at all. And maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm upset over nothing. I talked to him today stating some things and stuff and getting clarity and asking for extra credit and stuff. He said that I need to present myself better, and I need to make eye contact, stop stimming, and just socially act my age. Which I think it is uncalled for. I'm diagnosed with ASD, I have an IEP for that, nothing academic related, this is an honors class. Anyways. Again, maybe I'm just making it a bigger deal than it is or being a crybaby. I've cried for the past 3 hours over the last 2 days on how much I hate myself, that I can't be normal. Is this fair? And what should I do? Comments from OP. I'm not technically failing the class now, but it definitely feels like failing. My grade went down from a 90 to a 79. I can't take dual enrollment without an 85 or higher. This is just honors English, too. However, I've been telling both this teacher and another teacher about how I want to take the criminal justice dual class. I have everything to take the class except if I can't get this English grade up. Plus, I basically planned my whole life out, and the only time I can take the dual class is next semester if I want to take the APs I want in senior year. Which may be why I'm so butthurt over 4 points that I lost from stimming, cause that makes a difference. Even if it's small, it was 50% public speaking / 50% actual research topics. He actually said my arguments were really good, I used good sources, and I explained things well. But my public speaking part killed the grade. I lost points on poor presentation overall. So for example, poor eye contact, speaking clarity, repeating sentences, which I also am annoyed about because I repeated one because I was stumbling over my words. However, 4 points to an already poor grade is a lot. My teacher took off points for stimming. Update, posted on November 27, 2023. I posted a post about 10 days ago discussing how my English teacher took points off my presentation during a debate because of stimming. So I thought I should update you guys on what occurred after. For one, I discussed it with my teacher on my own. I wrote an extra credit proposal, which he granted. I ended up getting a 5-point extra credit assignment over Thanksgiving break. I had to tell a speech to my family about the importance of gratitude and what it means to me. Secondly, I talked to my dad and stepmom, which they both not the happiest. We ended up talking to him. While he won't change my grade for the major, he is giving me a chance to make up for minor grades. If I do some extra work, etc., 2 minor grades will become 100s. My teacher took points off my debate for stimming. Update to the update, posted on December 18, 2023. First and foremost, I brought my grade up from a 78 to a 90. I know that grades aren't everything, but honestly I can't be more excited about this. I also got a 100 on my state EOC, which I know probably had a huge curve, but still. I was extremely nervous about it. Secondly, we ended up adding stimming onto my IEP. The person who does my IEP was annoyed that we even had to specify it since she thought it was common sense. Lastly, the teacher got to talk about the importance of inclusion in his classroom and also to better understand some neurodiversity disorders in better detail. That yours truly helped write since mental disorders and psychology is one of my special interests. Anyways, that's about everything that has happened. My last day of school was Friday, meaning I am officially done with this teacher for the rest of my high school career, and I can happily say, I am very excited to not have to deal with him anymore. Edit, y'all. This was an English class, not a debate class. Specifically English 2 honors. Probably should have mentioned that. My wife has ADHD, neglects our kids, and humiliated me on Father's Day. After much consideration, I've decided to pursue a divorce. I, 43 years old, try to do my best to provide for my wife, 38 years old, and our 2 kids, ages 3 and 5, as well as my mother-in-law. I like to think that I am doing a decent job. Over the years, I have worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's degree and recently a master's in a STEM-related field, but I also worked 2 full-time jobs while finishing my second bachelor's degree and supported my wife through her schooling as well. She completed a degree that allows her to make good money, $60-70K/year, in a healthcare field that always has jobs available. However, with the birth of our 2 children, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's degree. Once I completed it, after our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little over $150K base plus bonuses. This past year, life has been overwhelming for my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with one child while the other is now in school. Every day, my day starts around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I prepare the house for the day before the nanny arrives at 8 a.m. I get our oldest child up and ready for school, make breakfast, plan out my day, drop our oldest off at school, and return home in time to let the nanny in. My current task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% working from home. While this is nice, I am busy in meetings all day as my role involves managing teams on a global scale and overseeing industry projects. For the past month and a half, I have noticed that despite my wife claiming her life at home is stressful, her day starts at 10 a.m. After a week of working from home, I asked my mother-in-law and the nanny if this was always the case, and they both responded that it varies, sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up, cooks, and then spends time scrolling through her phone or shopping online, which brings me to my concern. I am glad I can provide her with this lifestyle since we both grew up with limited means. I understand the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, and the fact that I may not be the best husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the household finances, since she claimed she was too busy to do so. Pay all the household bills, cover my personal bills, pay her bills, track and perform all the upkeep of our house appliances, cars, pets, etc. And I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. Despite this, my life is apparently much easier compared to hers. I can't decompress with her because she always feels the need to one-up me. If I have a bad day, she insists hers was worse because I'm lucky to go away and work. If my feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, she says it's nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 years, I've been told I ruined her life and her opportunities. But when I remind her of what she says, she denies and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has noticed a change in both me and my wife, pointing out that I have a greater attachment to my kids and that I've even hugged the dogs and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I'm in emotional survival mode. I am 1 step away from moving up the career ladder and 1 step away from finding love and comfort at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I am sure I will be hearing from the manly men of Reddit about how I am simping, but I am not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize aside from my kids appreciates and loves me for what I do. I am sure I will hear from the stay-at-home moms of Reddit, which is fine. I grew up in a single parent/mother household. It is not easy. And honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday to Friday, for one toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she is having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I am sure the masses of holier-than-thou Redditors will consider this a poorly written fanfic, but it is what it is. To summarize, TLDR. It feels as if my wife has checked out of our marriage. We are only roommates where she can still reap the benefits of marriage. I am not asking for her to throw herself at me all the time and let me do whatever I want. I really just want to be told I'm doing good and to offer me some form of emotional comfort as simple as a hug. But I guess as the man who ruined her life, I deserve it. Thank you for the replies. To add more context, never cheated. I do work in an industry that has a large female population, but I am literally an open book with work, name colleagues and staff under me. She has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop, but on that note, she still does not know what exactly I do for a living at this time. We as a whole family, her parents and mine, have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. Aside from my coming from a single mother household, my biological dad was present in my life. She has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. I have tried to talk to her about everything and my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. What I am receiving from the marriage was asked. Now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids, I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent sex life mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through. Maybe I'm just not attractive enough or just horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity does knock and I can perform still, but I never give in. Because as cliche as it sounds, I honestly do love my wife and want to only be with her. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, kids, MIL, and even Nanny. Aside from breakfast, she cooks all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small simple breakfast in case they don't like what school serves that morning. She does load both the kids in her laundry, but seldomly folds and puts them up. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they're work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge. But after she makes the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything if not delivered. She does clean our bathrooms and house 50% of the time. The other 50% is done by either MIL or myself, or sometimes Nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. Prior to Nanny, my MIL was the main help for my wife up until she had unexpected medical needs. So I opted to hire a nanny to help them both, more so when MIL is having treatments and recovering. Update: not sure if anyone would read this, but thank you for those who have reached out and chit-chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend and she read it and all the comments. Long story short, argument: she left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say, aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. I just need to add, this post got bigger than I expected from a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments. Nonetheless, thank you for the comments and DMs. And more so for the offers to let me ruin your life, huh? It's been the highlight of my day/night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I feel that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check up via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I made a follow-up from the update on 06 May 2024 I made on my original post during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending/destroying of a relationship people were hoping for. To save you a read, wife left, came back like nothing happened. She made it about her. Nothing changed. I'm continuing to be suffering mentally, knowing nothing will change while trying to keep it together for our kids. Lots of takeout. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only was it not fair to our kids for her to sweep them away into a home that's not theirs, but to put that financial and housing stress on the rest of her family since she doesn't work and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, stays with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week of being away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided that it would be fine if she walked in the door with her bags as if she just came back from Target. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I sat on a conference call meeting with my team, and I couldn't just jump off as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her, because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, I couldn't do anything more than look at her and just shake my head. Mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her to not bother me, while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink as I have been doing for the past nights, and my wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another and we were in bed. I wish I could say that was our making up, but the next sobering morning as we laid there, she went on about how hard it was for her the time she was gone. Literally. It was about her struggles staying at her family house in her old room with her dad and sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here and do this and that and buy this or do that and not stress as much as they did. How easy my and everyone else's in our family lives are compared to hers, even though we had similar upbringings. My mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then, and this last week I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties with life and work in general. Wife. Well, do you know how hard this is all for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. Me. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, FK me, get over it, right? Wife. We all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married and vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant with her. I've been sleeping in my office or on the couch or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still doesn't change her starting her day at 10 a.m. and sitting on her phone talking to her mom groups between cooking meals with the kids in both mother-in-law and nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt that anything will change. Sadly, I think even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel different anyway, since during my wife's leaving the days seemed like any other day except with a little more takeout than usual. My main fear there isn't that I wouldn't just lose my wife, I'd lose my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say the grand finale to my story. Like a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs, some context and clarification, since admittingly my post was emotionally charged since I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kids' pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during the time of both she scored pretty high and was suggested to see a therapist. With our second child she scored significantly higher, and I should say I made an effort to get her the help she needs. She refused, so entered mother-in-law and nanny for support. I know what people will say/think, but this is one of the reasons I'm not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. Also, I know silently suffering in the near and long run of our kids' future will not add to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to the ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first but that pain goes away, but I'd rather try to spare my kids thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few PPEL I talked to in DM since my last post, a little more insight on my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit I planned for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I made a number of contingency plans if sadly things went south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer, 3 actually, know our rights and what each of us are entitled to, have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it. I know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan if we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up, so while I'm venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to keep the norm our kids know, ensure my MIL's treatments go uninterrupted, and of course the hope my wife would finally be open to give therapy a shot and climb together to a better place. New update, I'm done. Wife said I don't do and am not shit in front of the therapist and family Father's Day dinner. She got served. She was mad. She is trying to act perfect and I'm just waiting while taking care of my family, kids, my mom, and MIL. Oh well, I'll just ruin everyone else's life too and my family. Secondly, to clear some confusion, I did not get 2 bachelor's and a master's while working 2 jobs at the same time as some readers are assuming. Bachelor's degree number 1 was completed in the early 2000s. Bachelor's degree number 2 was earned through online courses over several years, taking 2 classes per semester, all while I held down 2 full-time jobs. The first job was at a hospital with a 36-48 schedule, and the second job was at a big box store, where I worked 40 hours spread out over 7 days a week. I worked these jobs to pay for both my tuition and my wife's, as she decided to return to school before we had children. After completing bachelor's degree number 2 and entering the industry where I currently work, I was able to transition to one job and pursue my master's degree. So no, I did not earn 3 degrees simultaneously or in rapid succession. I'm surprised that I have to clarify this, as working 2 jobs while attending school isn't that uncommon, or at least that's what I thought. My wife chooses not to work. She does technically have a job. She just barely works it to the point we forget she has a job, as in she worked one day 5 months ago for 8 hours on a Tuesday kind of barely works. Her job and manager is really supportive, flex PRN model, and gives her a list of days they need coverage and she can choose to pick up a shift or not. While she can work more and only does just enough to keep up her license, she complains to our family of her career being on hold for one reason or the other, although she has the opportunity to work more if she opted to. All things considered, she has an available supportive circle around her for either decision she falls on. Our family, her job and I have made multiple offers and taken many steps to open that door for her to go back to work. That is nanny, MIL moved in to help, I work from home, her crazy flex PRN schedule, etc., etc. But here we are. I am and have been in therapy for myself already. Aside from what I deal with at home, my work can be very debilitating in regard to my mental health as well as physical at times. Since I can't find the support I need mentally and physically at home with my wife, I've opted to attend therapy rather than find comfort with someone outside of the home or at the bottom of a bottle. I've tried to express this to my wife, and as mentioned in my previous post, she has a habit of one-upping me. And here we are. My in-laws are still married. Given the circumstances in our home, my MIL moved in to help out my wife, while my SIL and her family moved back into their parents' house due to their own reasons. SIL and her family can save money while getting back on their feet, and my wife and I benefit from MIL's help, and we can keep a closer eye on her while she undergoes bi-monthly treatments. My wife, by means of questionnaires, is highly suspected to have PPD alongside with a history of symptomatic OCD, ADHD, amongst other ailments that over the years she refused to get evaluated for or refused to accept results given. I knew what I was getting into, and I loved and accepted my wife for these flaws as she did mine at the time. Spare me your doubt. I don't feel sorry for you, or pity. I am like every other man who fell in love and wanted to give my person the best of me in the world I can offer. But again, here we are. There are many men who identify strongly with traditional masculinity or the red pill ideology who complain and say that I am simping over my wife. While I respect your opinions and perspectives, I will outright say that if this situation were only affecting my life, I would have left a long time ago. As one Redditor mentioned in a previous comment that stuck with me, I am the kind of person who will take a bullet for his kids. Perhaps it was meant in a different context, but I am committed to protecting my children from any physical or mental harm. I am willing to metaphorically take the bullet as needed. I believe that other fathers would similarly respond to the duty to protect their children, and that's why I endured as much as I have. For the time being, I would prefer that my wife direct any problems towards me rather than our kids. Thank you all for the comments and reaching out. I've met many strangers who have become great Reddit pen pals, and some who have been in the know of every step that has been progressing to this point. I am surprised at how far this has gone, from other subreddits, other platforms, and even YouTube. Love me, hate me, say it's all fake. No matter where you stand, thank you for all the constructive comments and DMs to check in. Our kids and myself are going to be alright moving forward. Now for the update, the end of an era. This will be shorter than some expected, as really there's not much to say but just satiate the questions some of you may have had and give people the satisfaction of the I told you so moment on Reddit. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my wife and I finally attempted to go to marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went. Blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting, with a side of I am the reason for her life being ruined and horrible. Again. Just this time in front of a licensed therapist instead of Reddit or mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over her head and ignored as it was against the grain of her status quo. One thing I guess worth saying was the therapist asked if she could recall when she last truly felt happy. Her response was about 12 or so years ago. Please note, 12 years ago she was still in her 20s, childless, living with her ex. A vastly different time and position in life. I know it's petty of me, but I guess if that's when she was last happy, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch for her to find that happiness again, since her ex is in the same apartment, job and place in life that he was 12 years ago. Which is fine, if that's how you want to live life. I try not to judge, but in my 40s with kids, going clubbing 3-4 days a week is not my jam anymore. And of course, I don't want my kids around a mom and company who drowns themselves in White Claws. To add, I know some will ask, I know and can confirm she hasn't physically cheated on me, but can't confirm if she did emotionally, if that's the right term. After said therapy session, I checked all her phone records and didn't see anything out of the ordinary. But I also didn't bother to check apps like IG or Snapchat. I know I'm probably boring, but shout out to all the Costco dads whose Sunday Funday includes making rounds with kids for samples. The following weekend was Father's Day, and this year is expected not that big of a celebration as it is for many dads out there. Our family got together to celebrate with a BBQ and just simple family time, and my wife treated it like any other day. Sleep in, get up, cook, phone, shop. Attempt to play with kids, phone. During said family BBQ, my wife said she felt ill, so she sat around most of the day while the rest of the family as a whole made the experience enjoyable. When everything was set up and the family all sat at the table, her parents and sister's family, my mother, our kids, admittingly it was a great spread. Nothing extravagant, but just a great meal for everyone. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about both of our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assume my wife overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sit alone without their fathers during the breakfast with dad event I attended. She blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear, "It's not like you do anything anyway, I could have gone instead." At that moment I was red and at a loss for words, sitting there processing what she said in my head, while the dining room went dead silent. My MIL broke the awkwardness and in response said, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." My wife looked at my MIL confused that she would respond with that and laughed mockingly in my direction and with her hand pointing at me said, "As if another woman would want a man like him. Just look at you." While the room sat silent. I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In manly man fashion, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up and picked up my keys and got in my truck and drove off to get a drink while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house the rest of Sunday, because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras, but when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6, got the house and our oldest ready for school drop-off. Checked emails, checked messages, nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my wife laid in our bed snoring lightly. All I could do was look at her and think of what we had, and now lost. I've decided. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving her. Fast forward to last week, she was served at our home, reminder to people I had no choice but to be there because I work from home. She had, I guess what you could call a mini meltdown, and came into my office screaming how could I do this to her. Her mother intervened, and that was met with me supposedly turning her whole family against her. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it wasn't immediately followed by the rest of her week acting as if she's been this active and attentive wife and mother the past few years. Sure, people can say she's making an attempt, but she's made many attempts, and historically we fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. I already and will continue to cover all the expenses for our kids, insurance, tuition. Both of our kids are who will be attending private schools come fall, medical bills, etc. My MIL has given me the courage and strength that helped supplement my own mother's support throughout this. Basically, she is what I hoped the kind of mother-wife my wife would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my MIL as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial help if needed during her treatments. While some may feel I should cut their whole family off, I know the hardships pushed onto a family while dealing with cancer and have dealt with it firsthand as a family member and care provider on both sides of the desk. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean no-fuss divorce. My wife has no alimony coming, so sorry for the Redditors and Mommy Gang Facebook groups saying she needs to divorce me first and get that sweet, sweet alimony money. 1. We live in a state that does not typically enforce alimony. 2. She has a means of gainful employment immediately. 3. To help curb any possible problems, I will cover her insurance and bills until either divorce is finalized or when she gains full employment. So that's that. I'm done and waiting for the steps to be taken for everything to be finalized. Sorry it wasn't as exciting of a story with plot twists as some may have hoped for, but that's life. Not sure I'll update this once it's all finalized, which probably won't be for a few more months depending if we go to war or not. My ex-husband left when I was pregnant with twins. Now, he suspects I cheated and demands a paternity test for my children. My ex-husband and I have 3 children. It was a difficult split as he left while I was pregnant with our twins and he tried to make everything as difficult as possible. He and his wife are wanting me to do a paternity test on the children as they are disputing that our youngest is his and he no longer wants to pay child support for her. Him wanting to reduce his child support has been an ongoing issue. For the last 5 years, he hasn't had a problem regarding the paternity of any of our children. He's now stating that he doesn't think that our daughter is his and that I have cheated because she doesn't look like him. She doesn't look much like me either. She's got green eyes like I do. Both of us are pale with light-colored hair and eyes. Our daughter has dark hair that is thick and curly. She looks mixed race and she's the only one who looks this way. Her twin brother looks like my ex-husband. My daughter looks like my grandmother who was mixed race and was white passing. I'll be honest that he and his wife do not get along. I mean, it is hard to get along with the woman who your husband left you for. She keeps trying to shove herself in my children's lives and acting like their mom. She keeps insisting that she's mama, and they should refer to her as that. They have refused to call her that, which always ends at my ex calling me frustrated that the children won't give her respect. She's recently been pointing out that my youngest looks darker than her siblings and has been suggesting that my youngest isn't my ex-husband's. I'm close with my former SIL, ex's brother's wife, and she told me before my ex did that he wanted a paternity test and was going to stop paying child support for her. She's also said that ex and his wife are once again having money issues. This was something I had already suspected, as he had stopped taking them on his weekends as he was having to work overtime. Before people tell me to document this, I have everything documented. I refuse to answer calls from him, which forces him to either text or email me so that I can keep conversation records, as I don't trust him. After I found out about him wanting a paternity test, I told him that I wasn't going to consent to him doing a paternity test on the children, and the only way he was getting one is if he took me to court. He told me that it was clear our daughter wasn't his and that she didn't look like her siblings. He argued that he couldn't afford court and I was holding his money hostage by forcing him to pay for a child who isn't his. He has now apparently been whining about me on Facebook about how I cheated on him and am forcing him to raise another man's child, and forced him to sign the birth certificate. I didn't, he wasn't even there, but as we were still married I could put him on without him being there. I don't follow him. I had one of his friends try and confront me about it. I want my children to have a relationship with their dad, and I feel like this is stopping them. Though on the other hand, I know there will be something else he, or his wife, takes issue with down the line. AITA for refusing to do a paternity test. Edit. I thought I'd put this in my post, but I didn't. Really should have proofread this rather than posting in anger. My ex wants me to pay for the paternity test. He doesn't want to because of his financial situation, which is why I told him to take it to court and get a court-mandated one. I know if I was to pay for it, then he would want another one because he'll think that I tampered with it as I paid for it. He did the same when I had the house valued so I could give him half. He didn't like what the first person valued it at, so had to get another. I know I haven't cheated on him and she is his. I know some didn't like me referring to her as my youngest. Both her and her brother don't like being referred to as twins or as one, so I don't refer to them as such. Since they were toddlers, they have been very independent from each other and want to be treated as such. She is not my only daughter. My eldest is also a girl. Update. So I did not expect so many comments on my last post. After I posted in my frustration over the paternity test situation, my ex-husband, we'll call him Jim, and his wife kept trying to get me to consent to and pay for the paternity test. I refused to pay because I know Jim, when the result isn't what he wants, he will accuse me of tampering with the results. When I kept saying no, they ran to whoever would listen, complaining about me and how I was forcing them to pay for a child that wasn't Jim's. For those who may not have read my last post, the child in question is my youngest daughter and a twin. Jim does not contest that her twin brother is his. But apparently, along with being a bitch over this, I'm also a cat. News to me. Honestly, I didn't think he was that much of an idiot, but here we are. Jim kept complaining to his dad, Mick, and brother about me and how I was being financially abusive by taking money from him for a child that wasn't his and refusing to pay for the paternity test. Now Mick and I get on very well. He adores his grandchildren. They also adore him. And I have never attempted to stop them having a relationship, unlike Jim, who often attempts to weaponize the children. I get on very well with Jim's family and we are close. His SIL, his brother's wife, and I are very close. She's the sister I never had. Only child problems. Mick asked if he was to pay for a paternity test, if I would allow it to happen. Mick explained that he wasn't accusing me of anything, but he was fed up with seeing Jim and his wife drag me every chance they got. He understood why I was refusing and agreed with me. I agreed, but stated that Jim should choose the company that the paternity test is done through, and I didn't want to know which one was chosen. That way I wasn't involved. So we had the paternity test. Mick paid for all 3 children to be tested and had them tested with the private company Jim chose and then a private company Mick's lawyer recommended. Mick explained he did this so that if Jim started arguing against the results calling them fake, then Mick had another set to back them up. And what do you know? All 3 children are Jim's. Since we've gotten the results, Jim has tried arguing that they're wrong and that youngest definitely isn't his. He has also been taking to Facebook to complain about me and is threatening to take me to court for fraud. The man couldn't afford to pay for a paternity test. He definitely can't afford a lawyer to take me to court, but I'd like to see him try. Former SIL has been screenshotting some of his comments and sending them over to me, which we've been having a giggle over, especially since one of the things Jim has whining about is finding out I've been dating a former friend of his. I say former because he, along with some others, were cut out by Jim's wife. Jim's upset because I'm alienating him from the children by dating someone new, coming from the man who left me when I was pregnant for his now wife, who keeps trying to insist she is mama to my children. My children only met my boyfriend for the first time this weekend, after we had been dating for a year. Before people jump to Jim's defense and claim I'm alienating him, I've never stopped him seeing or communicating with the children. He's the one that decides when he's interested in being their dad. So yeah, unsurprisingly my children are Jim's. Jim's still an idiot. The children are happy as they're off to have a sleepover at their granddad's with cousins, while I get to have wine and spend the evening catching up with former Sil. Jim and his wife are still mouthing off on social media, but it's falling on deaf ears for the most part. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He left when you were pregnant with twins but doesn't believe the youngest is his. I didn't read past that because that doesn't make sense to me. Wouldn't the twins then be the youngest? OP. That's correct. She is the younger of my twins. Comment 2. So he thinks only one of the twins isn't his? OP. Yep, he only thinks one of the twins is his. I wish I could explain why he thinks that, but he was never the smartest. I discovered my stepmom's Reddit account and was shocked to find out how much she hates me and my siblings. I'm really pissed off and want to vent. I even cried reading the things she said, and I don't know what to do. I don't need any advice, I just want to vent. My father has been married to my stepmother for 5 years. He has been divorced from my mother since my younger brother was 2 years old. There's no beef between them and they have a great co-parenting. I have a 17-year-old sister, a 16-year-old brother, and I'm 25. Then my father has a 3-year-old son with my stepmother. I found her Reddit account in a pretty random way. Since I'm only home on the weekends, I let her use my computer. She forgot to close her email because I was able to come home during the week. She doesn't post too much, but she comments too much. I was honestly going to close the email, but it caught my attention that all the replies were from step-parents subreddit, so curiosity won me over. I know, it's not a good thing to do, and curiosity killed the cat. The first thing I saw was her last post, in which she detailed things about my life in a random Reddit sub, criticizing my decisions and even lying to get people to support her. She has posts on that site talking about how happy she feels when my siblings are not at home. My sister adores her, but she has comments talking about how she can't wait for them to turn 18 and leave the house because she just wants to share the house with her family. My father and her toddler, it seems that she doesn't see us as her family. She has a lot of comments answering other people that it's totally okay to not love your stepchildren because they're not family, and it's okay not to consider them one. She has comments talking about how much it bothers her when my dad and brother have sleepovers. They just watch a series in the playroom and then go to sleep, as she is tired of hearing the laughter of a teenager and can't wait until we all leave the house so my father can be with his real family. But what she hates the most is having to learn sign language for my little sister. It had always seemed strange to me that SM still struggles with sign language, but now I know that she never really put in the effort to learn. My sister always said that for many people sign language is very difficult, so I never said anything. But now I know that she always found stupid to learn how to communicate with my sister when my sister always tried to help her. I was too surprised by the hatred she has when my father spends time with me and my sister. Her jealousy towards us is so obvious that it disgusts me that there were so many people who told her how they feel the same way about their SDs. To the point of sexualizing things by saying too many disgusting things that I don't even want to say here. My siblings are not problem children, they even love her very much, and what fills me with anger the most is that she is so false in front of us. Do you know the number of times I offered to babysit my half-brother so she and my dad can go on a date? All those times she refused to let me take care of him, but now I saw comments that she left about how I am living at my father's house and I don't help her at all, only for other people to respond saying that she should give my father an ultimatum to make me leave because I'm too old to live with him and he has a new family. I cook my food, do my laundry, I help my father pay the bills while she doesn't, and normally only come home on the weekends because I'm doing a police academy almost full week. I don't even care if I'm making it too obvious who I am. It was my father who told me to move back with him so that when I come back from the academy on Friday nights it will be a shorter trip. She sexualizes my interactions with my father, saying that it is not normal for me to sleep a nap hugging him and that I should know my place. He is my father. What the hell wrong with her? I'm so disgusted. I have the comments. I have the post. I have even comments from years ago and I will use them. I don't care. Comments. Comment 1. Show dad her posts. Comment 2. This. Show your father what she really thinks of you all. Because once you're all eventually out and she gets her wish, she's going to work double time to keep it that way and isolate him. Update 1. I decided to delete the post because for now I can't tell anyone what happened because I'll basically be locked up in the academy until Friday morning. In fact, I shouldn't even be using my cell phone now. Someone with too much free time shared the situation in that sub of step-parents to warn my SM. I have screenshots of everything, including a video showing that it is her email and showing the comments. If she sees that post, what will she do? Delete the account? I already have the proof. But I don't want my siblings to find out before I tell them, and I know that those types of posts usually end up in those TikTok that re-upload posts without permission, so I prefer to delete the post so that it doesn't stand out even more. Although my siblings don't use Reddit or that kind of content. I'm going to post again in that sub when I talk about everything with my family, so I hope Redditors know how to keep the secret of the post for now. I know they won't, ha ha ha. Being a stepmom is hard. Yes, one thing is feeling that you're having a hard time, and another totally different thing is making a post saying that you hate it when your stepdaughter is around her father because you think she's going to fuck him, TF. It is not the same to say being a step-parent is stressful, than to say honestly learning SL is unnecessary. BC when the girl turns 18 I will not see her again, it is a waste of time since she can read lips. Also some people complained about me hugging my dad. I also took a nap hugging my mother or my siblings. I'm sorry for having a family that loves me and are not perverts who see a hug as something sexual. Probably next week I will be able to maybe give an update. The academy keeps me working almost all day. Comments. Comment 1. It's already on TikTok. That's how I found this post. OP. I hope that for now it does not appear in my siblings' FYP. Comment 2. As soon as it's posted on Boru, it's on TikTok. Update 2. Hi. For now I'm going to post this little update here since I haven't spoken to my father yet, but I spoke with my siblings and mom. I told my dad that I was staying at a friend's house when I left the academy, but I actually went to my mom's house and told her everything. She doesn't even know what Reddit is. That site isn't used too much here, but I translated the comments and posts for her. I showed her the videos and my mom was furious. I explained to her that in the comments BM it's Madre Biologica. I was confused about it too the first time I read that, also with SM. So my SM also made comments and posts complaining about my mother, being that they have always had a cordial treatment. But still my SM was lying, saying that my mother was troublesome. No one in the comments said anything. Everyone supported her and they recommended that she should move far away with her legal family, far away from the problematic BM and kids. First we told my brother, who was also upset and said that she was a fake, but that he has seen her ignore my sister and pretend that she does not see or hear her a lot of times. He explained that like me it also seems strange to him that SM has not yet learned sign language. My siblings spend a lot of time at my father's house. Just like English or Spanish, sign language is much easier to learn if you live with someone who uses it every day. Therefore it is strange that SM doesn't use it. He said that even my father has offered to pay for her classes, but she says she doesn't have time. We asked him if he noticed any other behavior of that kind, and he said that SM doesn't let him take care of our younger brother, which she also does with me, but curiously she does let our sister take care of him, so I don't understand that. Other than that, she's never treated him badly or anything like that. At the time of telling my sister, she was the most hurt. She cried especially because of SM's comments towards me, calling me a whore. It's kind of ironic how the comments towards her affected me and the comments towards me affected her. Haha. Something that my sister noticed that I didn't is that almost all of SM's comments are criticizing me, my sister, and even my mother. But my brother, she has only criticized sleepovers or when he comes back late from being with his friends. But she has criticized my and my sister's clothes, made up things about my life, confessed that she hates it when we hug our father. She said we're too clingy. She talked badly about my mother, etc. My sister said it's sexist and maybe she's got some mental problem. My sister said she always believed SM didn't really hear her and she maybe wasn't speaking well and didn't understand her. I think that's the shittiest thing of all. My sister's greatest pride is being able to pronounce some words no matter how short they are or if they sound like noise for some people. We understand her, but SM made her feel insecure every time she ignored her. I know that my sister always justified that by believing that it was her mistake and that SM made an effort to learn, but it was simply more difficult for her. But now we know that no, she was never interested in learning. I'm getting mad again as I write this, sorry. My mother said she was going to talk to both of them, mainly because even though it's an anonymous site, SM's way of expressing herself is sick and she's not going to let my siblings be around someone like that. Oh, but she's venting. Being a stepmom is lonely. I received comments like that. It's not the same to say I feel lonely and I feel stressed, than to say my stepdaughter behaves like a slut, just because me and my minor sister uses a bikini for the pool. Her account is old. She's been leaving comments like that for years. With lies, with complaints we never heard before. It's just messed up. We arranged that we're going to tell our father all together and show him everything, so we're probably going to tell him tomorrow because I need to leave for the academy on Monday. My SM account has not been deleted. It's crazy how she makes things up to get approval from strangers. At this point, I don't even know if she's crazy or a mythomaniac. I would like to go back to her email since the password is saved, but I don't know if she will receive a notification of that because this time I closed the account. Update 3. We talked to my father over the weekend. For now he is staying at my mother's house. It is a complicated situation since in the middle of everything is my half-sibling too. During the weekend I went to my father's house and the first thing I did was tell my stepmom separately that I've seen her Reddit account and I'm going to talk about it with my dad. She told me that I can't condemn her for something she uses as an intimate diary, but I told her that this is not a diary. It is a social network where she makes her problems and lies public. If someone other than me discovered her account, then what was going to happen? Were they going to believe all the things she invented? If her identity was revealed on that account by someone else, I would have too many problems and could even be kicked out of the academy. Again, there's a big difference between saying I'm stressed and my stepdaughters behave like sluts around their father. I simply told her that my mother and sister also know it and would come to talk about it too. She, for obvious reasons, just went to lock herself in her room, not wanting to talk with me. Once we talked to my father, I showed him most of the posts and comments. There were so many crazy comments that I think it would take me too long to read them all because they were just so long too. She's that kind of people who comments the bio of their lives in the posts of other people. My father got angry. My SM never expressed having a single problem with us like that. The situation would be different if we knew what she thinks about us. My father went to look for my SM, who refused to talk about it and was mostly angry with me for violating her privacy. My father told her that she's insane for thinking that my sister and I sexually provoked him, that he can't believe the way she talks about my sister and the happiness she expresses every time my sister goes to the hospital and is not home, how she expresses to be counting the days until my sibling stops going to the house forever. My father told her that she knew that he is a father and that he would never leave us aside. She made her decision, and even so, instead of talking about her problems, she decided to create an account to play at being a victim. She said she needs a place to vent, but he told her that venting is not the same as telling lies. Venting is not the same as hating your stepdaughters and talking horrible things about them, and she could have spoken about it and not just lied. They argued a lot, but it didn't get anywhere because she kept defending herself, and my father only told her that it was over. My mother told my father that she is not going to let my sister and brother be around a woman who is clearly mentally unstable because no normal person thinks like that. After arguing too much and even trying to make SM understand that what she did is wrong, she just justified herself all the time. My father went with us and told her that he is going to come back just to see my brother every day, but that he no longer trusts her and never saw that side of her. She lied for so many years. Nothing really went as I expected because I expected her to be more mature. I think I at least hoped that she could apologize, but I think she doesn't even think that what she did is wrong. In her mind, everything was totally justified because being a stepmother is difficult, but nothing justifies her being so cruel and poisonous. But yeah, that's what happened. I think it's hurtful to know that someone can hide that much darkness inside. I wasn't too close with her, but I liked her, to the point of sharing my clothes and things with her, so I also feel sad about it. Mostly for my dad. Comments. Comment 1. Wow, just wow. You think you know someone and then 1 second, bam! I am so sorry you and your family are dealing with this. SM is off her rocker. Does she need constant attention and approval? She needs therapy and most likely the whole family because this is a traumatic event and major trust issues are now forming. Stay well, stay strong. OP. Comment 2. I am happy that your father stood up for you all. I got kicked out of step-parent Reddit because it was clear that some step-parents were unhinged and hated their stepkids with a passion. OP. Yeah, I even had to delete the first post because I was told that someone had made a post in that sub to alert my SM. Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter to visit my cousin's house because of her autistic son's behavior? My cousin and I both have 2 children who are the same age. We have 12-year-old boys and 11-year-old girls. Her 12-year-old son, Damien, is autistic and has a lot of issues that we believe are unrelated to autism, but we are no experts on the subject. My 12-year-old son, Christopher, loves hanging out with Damien because he enjoys knowing that he brings some sort of joy to Damien's otherwise rough life. Damien has been kicked out of every school he has attended, so he has no friends. Our daughters are the best of friends as well. They are basically inseparable. Well, about 2 weeks ago my cousin asked if she could take my kids for the week. COVID outbreak at school, so school was called off anyways. I said that was fine after asking the kids if they wanted to go. Everything was perfectly fine for the entire week, I thought. I checked on the kids often. They seemed happy and to be having fun. However, that all changed when I picked my kids up. That's when they told me all the weird shit Damien was doing. Such as my daughter would wake up to Damien stroking her hair or arms while she slept, and when she caught him, he pretended to be asleep. He went into his sister's room at some point during the night against his parents' rules. I guess he also told my daughter several times that he likes her, and when my daughter told my cousin about it, she basically said it's okay to have crushes, but where you're related, you simply can't act on it. I guess he also kept trying to take pictures of her. I'm unsure whether or not she corrected her son's behavior by touching my daughter in her sleep. However, I do know that not once did she tell me anything that happened. My kids did, while she kept it hush-hush. After finding all of this out, I called my cousin and said that my kids would no longer be allowed there because my daughter now felt uncomfortable around Damien. She is pissed because he doesn't mean it. It's not like he went out of his way to be weird. He doesn't understand. It's his autism, but says she ultimately understands. However, she's still making me feel bad about it because her kid has autism and doesn't know why he isn't allowed to see my kids anymore, and I guess he has been having a lot of outbursts since that point. One of them resulting in her needing to call the police because he became violent and started throwing chairs. Am I the A for revoking my brother's +1 to exclude his problematic friend and inviting his girlfriend instead, causing a family dispute? Original post, June 11, 2024. I kind of know I'm the asshole, but I need to know how bad it was. My brother, who is 29 years old, has been with Leah for about 2 years. We all like her. She is super nice. I am getting married next April and send an invite to my brother's apartment. We decided to send invites to households and not individuals. For example, our aunt received an invite for her family and not for each individual. Last Thursday, we met at my parents' place. It was just the core family because of some tax reasons, lol. While there, I asked my brother about Leah's dietary restrictions. I know that she is a vegetarian for health reasons and that she cannot have certain raw vegetables. He said that she wasn't going to come and that he was taking his girl best friend, Amanda, instead. Now their relationship is weird as hell. Amanda has always been stringing my brother along, in my opinion. He always denies having feelings for her, but let's be real here. Amanda would date other guys, blow off my brother, then when things were on the decline with her partners, she would be attached to him again. Her last boyfriend broke up with her right around the time my brother, his then ex-girlfriend, Amanda, and her ex were supposed to travel to Spain. What did my idiot brother do? Go with Amanda alone because Amanda was uncomfortable with his ex-girlfriend. Obviously, he acted blindsided when his girlfriend broke up with him. I didn't even say anything anymore because it's all so weird. So when he said that, I asked if Leah already had other plans. But my brother said that Amanda had asked if she could come because it would be an opportunity to finally see the old gang. We were in the same friend group in high school. I told him that I would have invited Amanda if I wanted her there. Amanda is mean and cold. She always makes disparaging comments about other girls. At every event around 1 hour in, she will make some sort of scene that either has her running away crying or sitting mad at a table telling everyone to leave her alone, and then making a cryptic comment about something hurting her. I told my brother I was revoking his +1 and Amanda was not coming to our wedding. He accused me of being misogynistic and bigoted because I don't understand opposite-sex friendships. Which is BS. My husband has a female childhood friend who is his best woman. I love her too and she has been amazing. And she respects fucking boundaries. She always includes me and made a huge effort when I started dating my fiancé to integrate me into the friend group. Anyway, I said my decision was final. He could take it or leave it, but I would be inviting Leah myself because I like her. He screamed at me and told me to keep out of his business. I said to get rid of his weird fucking feelings for Amanda. He is mad at me. My dad said it is none of our business. My mom is furious with my brother. So am I the A? Edit. To answer some questions, the invite was addressed to the Smiths. Funnily enough, Leah has the same last name as us. Granted, we have one of the most common last names. Yes, they live together. The tax thing is nothing huge. My parents have a small business but are really bad at keeping track of all their receipts. So every month we go and help them. We digitalize the receipts and put them in bookkeeping software for the accountant. Amanda is in the comments. Say hi. The alleged Amanda comments. Editor's note: the account replying is a well-established account on AITA and commented on many posts before commenting on OP's. It was not a new account nor a throwaway. Do not DM this person or harass them in any way, as it goes against the rules of the sub. This is only included because it is relevant to what OP wrote and pointed out. First off, you the ass. If he has any sense, he simply will not come to your wedding. That's the correct way to handle assholes like you. OP: yeah, I wouldn't mind, LOL. Second, well, if you don't mind your brother and dad not coming to your wedding, that's fine. But the way you handled it makes you the asshole. Not inviting your brother would have been fine. Giving him an invite, trying to dominate him and decide his relationships for him, and then uninviting his plus one because you want to decide who his partner is, that's overstepping. OP: my dad is not mad at me, dude, LOL. He thinks it's unnecessary drama. He doesn't like Amanda either, so he's just keeping out. Amanda replied to several other commenters. Here are a few. Commenter: not the A your brother is though. He needs a huge reality check. This chick Amanda sounds super problematic and toxic, and since it is your wedding, you are absolutely within your rights to decide who gets to be there and who doesn't. Hope your brother will realize how manipulative Amanda is and cut her from his life before she manages to destroy even more for him. Amanda: all of that is none of OP's business. She gave him a +1, then revoked it. She is an AH for intruding into his relationship. This will break up her family. Let's see if her brother and dad will be the only ones not coming. Commenter: it's confusing then why he and Amanda aren't together. They seem to be into each other. Or does he really like Amanda, but she uses him as a placeholder and doesn't reciprocate his feelings? If that's the case, he needs to put distance there so he can move forward. Or you're right, he will be alone until Amanda gets married to someone else. Amanda: what do you expect? He has an asshole sister. Relevant comments. First, you can invite Leah yourself, but by the sounds of your brother's behavior, who knows if they will even still be together by then. Even if they are, I wouldn't count on her sticking around if he keeps prioritizing Amanda over her. OP: I like Leah, genuinely as a friend, and would like her there. I should have honestly just invited her officially too. I should have foreseen David would do this. Next, how does Leah feel about Amanda? OP: well, she feels hyper insecure about Amanda. Finally, she should, because this behavior is a pretty obvious sign that should Amanda give him a chance, he will cheat on Leah in a second, and has probably done so with his exes. OP: agree 100%. If Amanda wrote to him right now that she wants him, he would drive pantless to her place. On OP's brother: I gave up talking to him years ago. I always feel sorry for the amazing girls he brings home though. I still talk to his ex. She helped me with my career, LOL. He is going to end up alone. Commenter: but just to be safe, tell Leah she is invited even if she isn't with your brother anymore at the time of the wedding, because, let's be real here, she can do a lot better and it's just a matter of time before she realizes that and dumps him. Let Leah have a +1 so she can enjoy herself. That would make her feel truly welcome. Your brother is a major asshole, and I don't blame you at all for not wanting his side piece at your wedding. I also wouldn't blame you if you didn't want him at your wedding. OP: she can do so much better. On paper, my brother is pretty great. Amazing job, financial stability, he volunteers at animal shelters, and cares about his appearance. And when he is not drooling for Amanda, he is generally really nice and loving. But bro, why aren't he and Amanda together? It's so weird, man. IDK: she is jealous when anyone spends time with him. I once told him to ask her to have a one-sided open relationship where she gets to do what she wants, and he waits at home for her because he already does that, lol. Commenter: did he even tell Leah she was invited? There might be a possibility that he's lying and the girlfriend didn't even know about the wedding. OP: she did not in fact know. Commenter: How did she learn about it? From you or from him? For damage control. OP. I called Leah in front of him, asking her about it. She had no idea. OP is voted not the A. Update post, June 25th, 2024, 2 weeks later. I listen to 2 hot takes every day on my commute, so it was a huge surprise when you responded to my post. Thanks for your insights. Regarding the invitation, I now realize I shouldn't have phrased it as inviting a single person. I thought inviting households would be cute and less pressure for guests. Lesson learned, LOL. Here's an update I'd like to share with you. After the confrontation, I didn't hear from Leah or my brother for about 2 days. During that time, Amanda reached out to me upset about my Reddit post. She called me an asshole and insisted that Leah is not the only special woman in my brother's life. She argued neither Leah nor I have the right to be selfish with my brother's time, asserting she existed before Leah or any of his girlfriends and would outlast them all. She ended with a presumptuous statement that she would surely see me at my wedding. I was fuming. I chose not to engage with her other remarks but instead sent her a clear message. Hello Amanda, you are not invited to my wedding. If you want to see the old gang, please organize a coffee date when they're all in town. Should you appear at the wedding, you will be escorted out, peacefully by staff or with police involvement. Please refrain from contacting me or my husband. Amanda responded with more emails, mostly vague threats and name-calling, and turned to Instagram to indirectly target me. She tagged me in posts, making my username small so people wouldn't notice me tagged but would see it in my notifications. She also used an Ask Me Anything sticker on her Instagram story, where I'm pretty sure she asked herself leading questions. Highlights included questions like, what's the perfect outfit for a wedding? With a photo of herself in a dress captioned, this, but sadly I'll never get to use it, and what is your pet peeve? Followed by a rant about nosy people who think they have the right to control others. She flooded her story with sad quotes about no longer having a girl's girl. She tagged me in every single one. Of course, I screenshotted them all, LOL. Some friends reached out when Amanda started spreading a different story, claiming I originally invited her but later disinvited her because Leah hates her and pressured my brother to do the same. The cool part? Not one person believed her. Many of our old high school friends have cut ties with Amanda, and the few guys who still talk to her are more linked to my brother. They reached out to let me know Amanda was spreading rumors. The girls in the group blocked her after she vented to them, which led Amanda to start bombarding their phones. My brother panicked, thinking I'd started a campaign against her. Speaking of my brother, he called and texted me multiple times, furious that I excluded Amanda and even blamed me for any harm she might come to. He went as far as calling our mother, saying Amanda was depressed and threatening never to forgive me if something happened to her. My mom advised him to call for a welfare check if he was genuinely concerned because he, as an individual with no training, wouldn't be equipped to handle such situations. The biggest development is that my brother got kicked out of his shared apartment. Leah called me to say their relationship might not continue and that she might not feel comfortable coming to the wedding. I understood her decision and offered an open ear. We met for coffee and she recounted their ugly fight. Without going into all the details, Leah didn't hold back. She made my brother read every single text out loud between him and Amanda and sent a copy to one of her male friends, who replied, Leah, what the F? This is not okay. She used this as evidence that their interactions were, at best, inappropriate and, realistically, an emotional affair. When my brother begged her to stay, she asked him why, knowing he would always choose Amanda. He swore he wouldn't, but his immediate response to a hysterical call from Amanda about me bullying her proved otherwise. Leah left while he comforted Amanda in another room. Later, she texted him that he needed to move out while she was away. It's her apartment, and she didn't want to see him until certain conditions were met, cutting Amanda out completely and seeking therapy to address his unhealthy patterns. The fight spanned 2 intense days. Leah found solace in your podcast and the comments here. She described it as surreal but helpful. She sends her greetings and wants people in similar situations to know a few things. Don't fear being alone because being with someone who's not good for you will make you feel lonelier than being single. Never enter a relationship with a I can fix him mentality, as it usually ends in heartbreak. Prioritize yourself, and while trying to work things out is noble, don't depend on it as the solution. That's pretty much it. It sounds convoluted, like a soap opera, but my day-to-day life has surprisingly been calm. I think my brother really needs to mature and either commit to Amanda or realize he's being strung along. And to Amanda, please grow up and leave me alone. Relevant comment. Commenter, well, is your dad still coming to your wedding? I'm so glad Leah dumped your brother. OP, yes, of course. Also, they are on a break. Please insert Ross Geller meme here. Commenter, hey OP, your comment about your brother and Amanda taking a trip to Spain and uninviting his girlfriend because Amanda was uncomfortable with the girlfriend. I just read a post about exactly that situation. Was that your brother? I would post the link here, but it won't let me. OP, no, it's not him. The mods on Too Hot Takes leave a note on the post. Mod note, can confirm that someone was reporting this post and a bunch of comments for nonsense reasons when it first got traction. So, a not so happy hi Amanda, from our moderation team. New update post 1, July 8th, 2024, 2 weeks later. We got a call last night. My brother has been in a car crash abroad. My father and I are on the way there. Getting plane tickets was almost impossible, so we had been driving since 5 a.m. He was on a holiday with Amanda to clear their minds. Amanda didn't even call us. I don't know if she is still with my brother or if she is also hurt. My brother's phone was shattered, so he can't update us. The nurse, bless her soul, has been updating us. He can't even talk to us. I think I'm just writing because I don't know what else to do. My dad doesn't want to talk. I don't know if he is mad or worried or both. I have never seen this expression on his face. My brother is an idiot who has hurt a bunch of people because he is selfish. But I still don't want him to die. He is my brother. Thank God he is alive. Amanda is not here. New update post 2, July 10th, 2024, 2 days later. Title, what is going on? This has been an absolutely terrible week. My brother is alive but not doing well. We're stressed out of our minds because of the insurance situation. He and Amanda went to a country that's not part of the European Union, and of course, he didn't book any travel insurance. So we have to pay up front and hope his insurance will refund us. But we all know how that goes. If they owe you money, you might see it in 8 to 18 business months. My mom and Leah are trying to figure that out too. Amanda came to the hospital yesterday. She hadn't left, she just had to go to the police because of the car crash. The reason my brother is in the hospital is not because of the crash, but because of sepsis, a UTI turned kidney infection turned sepsis. They decided to go on vacation to blow off steam. Around 4 days in, my brother started feeling warm and sick. Amanda said she offered to drive him to an ER, but he declined. I'm not sure if she's telling the truth, but this is the first time I've seen her being genuine. They went out drinking, and when they came home, he took something for the pain. Amanda couldn't tell me exactly what it was, but she said it worried her because you're not supposed to mix medication with alcohol. They started arguing, and then my brother passed out. I don't know why she didn't call an ambulance, she couldn't explain it to me either. But when my brother came, she loaded him into the car. Amanda said she panicked, and when they were arriving at the hospital, she crashed into a barrier. That's when my brother's phone, which he was holding, flew out of the window. Amanda decided to run into the clinic to get someone and stay with the car until the police came. After that, they didn't let her in because she's not family. Instead of calling us immediately, she went back to their Airbnb and told me that she just needed a moment to process everything. She had to go to the police, pay for the damage, and then went to see my brother. But here's where it gets frustrating. Amanda decided that she needed to clear her head and left my brother in the hospital alone for a day. She checked into a nearby hotel to rest. She didn't tell any of us where she was until she showed up at the hospital yesterday, looking somewhat relaxed and acting as if everything was under control. When we confronted her about leaving my brother alone, she said, "I just needed some time to get myself together. It's been overwhelming." Meanwhile, my brother was lying in a hospital bed in a foreign country, with no way to contact us because his phone was shattered in the crash. We're now trying to navigate the logistics of getting him home and ensuring he gets the medical care he needs. Amanda, on the other hand, seems more concerned about how this whole situation is affecting her peace of mind. She even posted a photo from her hotel room, with a caption like, "Taking a much-needed break." It has been a nightmare, and Amanda's behavior, while not super malicious, has added to the stress. We're doing everything we can to support my brother. My brother, on the other hand, is struggling physically and emotionally. He's worried about the mounting medical bills, his recovery, and the strain this situation has put on our family. On top of that, he's afraid that Amanda is losing interest in him, which only adds to his anxiety. That's why we're playing nice with Amanda, to avoid adding any more stress for my brother. We're focusing on getting him the best care possible and bringing him home safely. I found out I was pregnant with my fourth child not long after divorcing my husband. I'm conflicted about whether I should keep this baby. This is long. I'm sorry, I've sort of written a novel here. I wanted to post this in a relationship advice group, but the subject matter isn't allowed. My ex-husband and I were married for 10 years, although the last 2 were spent in variations of separation. We've been divorced for roughly a year. We have 3 kids, 10, 8, 5. I'm pregnant with our 4th baby. I don't know if we'll actually be parents to 4 kids or not. I'm so conflicted. We are so conflicted. There was no abuse or cheating in our marriage, although he did sleep with somebody else during our separation. There are a variety of other reasons why we ultimately got divorced. After the initial feelings of failure and heartache, and there was an immense amount of heartache on my end despite being the one who filed for divorce, we were able to get along pretty well. It becomes platonic so quickly, and it's like when we remove the romantic and married relationship from the equation, things got so much better. We split time with our kids 50-50ths. That's really hard for me because being a mom is such a huge part of my identity that I still sometimes struggle to know what to do with myself during his time with the kids. Ultimately, I'm happy that he's a loving, involved father, and I'm glad that they do spend half their time with him, even if I still sometimes cry over not being with them all the time. We still do things together as a family sometimes. We sit together at our kids' activities, things like that. He has a girlfriend now. She seems nice. He met her not long after our divorce was finalized. It hurt. I cried way too much over it. He waited over 6 months to introduce her to our kids, which I was thankful for. My kids like her. Our youngest child was unexpectedly admitted to the hospital not long ago. He had surgery. In the grand scheme of things, it was a pretty minor surgery and he's absolutely fine now, but this is my baby and he had to spend multiple nights in the hospital, so this was a big deal for me. My ex-husband was there the entire time, being a great dad, being a supportive partner to me as I worried over every little thing. We spent all those nights in the hospital together and I remembered why I married him. He was always able to be the strong, level-headed rock for me. He was this safe person who I knew would take care of everything and protect me. When we were in the hospital, he told me that I'm the most important woman in his life. When our son was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house. My baby was home safe. Our other 2 children were excited to be home after staying with my husband's sister for several nights. We were all together at home like a family again. That night after our kids were in bed, we had sex. I hadn't been hoping for it or planning it. It was just like as soon as the kids were tucked away in their rooms, we were having this intensely passionate, needy, amazing sex that we shouldn't have been having. We went to sleep in my bed and at some point in the middle of the night we had sex again. The next morning we both decided our emotions with the whole situation with our son just got the better of us. We said we didn't regret sleeping together, but that's all it was, and we were just going to go back to our normal divorced lives. We wouldn't make it awkward, just move on. Then I found out I was pregnant. We didn't use a condom. I don't even have condoms in my house anymore. I'm not on birth control. I haven't been since we divorced. I haven't needed it since I haven't had the time or interest to start dating again. I really wanted to be single for a while. I know I was ovulating when we slept together, which was probably a contributing subconscious factor as to why it happened. My body sees him being a good dad to our kids and it wants another. My cycle is like clockwork and we've always conceived on the first try every time we've tried to get pregnant. Our first kid was not even a try. It was 2 weeks before your wedding you find out you're pregnant and spend your honeymoon with morning sickness surprise. So now I'm about 8 weeks pregnant. I've known for about a week. I just told him this past weekend. I didn't know if I would tell him at all. I realize now that I only told him in hopes that he'd tell me what to do and figure the situation out for me. Only he didn't. I know it makes no sense to have a baby with somebody I chose to divorce. I don't need a 4th child. Why can't I let go of this though? Update 1. I posted about a week ago. My ex-husband and I have been divorced for about a year. We have 3 kids, ranging from 10, 5 years old. We have gotten along great since the divorce, better than when we were married. It's almost like we're friends, can do things with our kids, and enjoy being around each other. About 2 months ago, our youngest unexpectedly ended up having surgery and spending several nights in the hospital. He's fine now. My ex-husband and I stayed together with our son the entire time he was in the hospital. When he was discharged, my ex-husband came back to my house, or former family home, at our son's request. He was just supposed to spend a few hours there, help our son get settled, then go home. However, I guess all of the emotions and being together as a family in our former shared home got the better of us, and we ended up having sex twice that night. Now I'm 9 weeks pregnant. I wasn't on birth control, was on it until after our divorce was finalized, but have been intentionally remaining single for a while and not involved with men in any way, so was giving my body a break from birth control. Initially, we were undecided about what to do, but as of last weekend, we made the decision together to have the baby. It feels sort of crazy to me. Definitely not a situation I ever imagined I'd find myself in. I already picture this baby looking just like our other kids. I guess that's why I struggled with the idea of not continuing with the pregnancy, which I know isn't really a valid reason to have a baby. This is probably the last baby I'll ever have. I'm 39, so even if I were to meet a man who I trusted enough to want to have a child with and a future with, I'll be well into my 40s by then. I plan to be very picky, but I'm not even at the point of wanting to find somebody new yet. We're not getting back together, for now. We get along great when we're not married and living in the same house. We feel it'd be irresponsible to all of our children to attempt to get back together right now because of this. Chances are higher that we'll be able to co-parent this baby successfully if we live separately. However, we are committed to working together to do what has to be done to take care of the baby when he or she gets here. Our kids are doing so great right now, and they seem very happy and secure with the current setup of our lives and homes, so we want to stick with this for now. I don't know if I really understand what I'm getting myself into. Our other kids were all born into a marriage and a two-parent home. I know that sharing custody of a baby will be a lot different than the kids going back and forth between homes. I might be feeling too positive about it, but I think it could work out fine. The new baby will just see this as normal, right? Next thing to worry about will be having to explain this to everyone when we tell them. My family and friends will get over it, but I'm especially concerned with explaining it to our kids. I'm worried our oldest won't take the news well. She also knows what sex is and how babies are made. And for everyone concerned about his girlfriend, she's not his girlfriend anymore. Top-rated comment: these two are 100% getting back together within a year and then breaking up again in another. Update 2. Several people have asked me for an update on my situation. My ex-husband and I are having a baby. My other posts are on my profile. A recap is that we were married for 10 years, divorced for almost 1.5 years now, and have 3 kids together. We slept together twice during a stressful family time, and I ended up pregnant. We've since admitted we are both still in love with each other, but have not actually declared that we're back together, mainly for the same of our kids. I last posted toward the end of January. I'm 28 weeks pregnant. We're having a little girl. As far as the pregnancy goes, it's been like a textbook pregnancy, and so I feel pretty good. Just more tired than I ever remember being during pregnancy before. My husband and I continue to live separately and share custody of our kids. We each have them 50% of the time. They're all aware that we're having a baby, and none of them seem to be deeply confused or emotionally damaged by their divorced parents having a baby together. We explained it in an age-appropriate way. Our oldest child was more grossed out that her parents had sex than anything else, since she now understands what sex is and how babies are made. We've been involved with her quite a bit, and she's excited now. I even took her to one of my appointments. She's excited to have a baby sister, and she understands that mom and dad love her and her siblings, that we love this new baby, and that we love each other as people and as parenting partners without actually being together as a married couple in one house. Meanwhile, my husband and I have started to attend couples counseling. We tried marriage counseling when we were separated before we divorced, but I think we were both already pretty mentally done, so counseling didn't do much for us then. I think we're getting way more out of it now because we're actually invested in it and putting in a lot of effort. Sometimes I feel great after a session, and at other times I feel not so great and am reminded of reasons why we divorced. Overall, I think it's a good thing for us no matter what happens with our relationship. We've been sleeping together for the last few months. We already agreed that we won't be seeing other people at this time. I wouldn't be saying this while pregnant anyway, and it's not as if I'll even have time with 3 kids and a newborn. We agreed that we will not open ourselves to being with other people while we are working on our relationship and before that conversation is had between us. We are carrying on just as we have been since our divorce, as far as our kids are concerned. Dad doesn't spend the night at our house. We do things together as a family sometimes, but we were doing that even before anything was rekindled between us. We're not acting as a couple when we're together as a family. We're friendly with each other, but there is no holding hands, kissing, etc. Our main concern is our kids. We refuse to say we're back together. If we officially get back together, we really want to feel certain that it'd be for the long term, that we're ready to commit to that. We don't want to give our kids whiplash or do anything to make them insecure about our family. We would like to get to that point, but we aren't there yet. I think if my husband had his way, we'd be there. He's ready to say he's there now. He'd love to move back home. But he understands and agrees with my reasoning. I'd love for him to move back home too, based only on emotions. We both have things to work on, separately and together. I want to be a better spouse this time around. I thought I was being a really great wife and I was on the surface. I also know that right now I feel so in love and am hopped on hormones and pregnancy happiness. I always feel super happy, super positive, and super horny during pregnancy, and I know I have to be careful with trusting anything I feel during this time because it's like I'm on a 24/7 natural high. I think the biggest issue right now is that he's far more, let's throw caution to the wind, even though he agrees with all of my reasoning, and I want to be way more careful. Final update. I've made a few posts about my husband getting pregnant after we divorced. We were married for 10 years and had 3 kids before getting divorced. We got along so much better after we divorced and we have been really good co-parents during this time, but we were functioning strictly as friendly co-parents. We slept together around 1 year after our divorce was finalized and conceived a 4th baby, which we ultimately decided to keep. Our 4th child, a sweet baby girl, was born at the end of May. She's so perfect and we both feel we made the right choice to bring her into the world. It was the smoothest, easiest birth I've had and I take that as a sign. I feel like I fell in love with him all over again during labor and delivery, and that's when I knew I was ready to make our relationship official and public to everyone, including our children. Contrary to all the assumptions, our kids really don't seem to be negatively affected or confused about the baby, and I don't think the newest baby is getting any less love or attention than our 3 kids born within our marriage have. This is normal to them now. They understand we're still a family, and no matter what, we'll always be a family whether mom and dad live together. We are still living separately and technically still maintaining the custody schedule we had in place for our oldest 3 kids. Although, the kids are with me every weekday right now since it's summer break and I'm on maternity leave. We have a different arrangement for the baby, but he does take her overnight a few nights a week. I got our family home in the divorce and he spends time here with all of us. He has spent some nights here at home to help with the baby, but he doesn't stay in my bedroom quite yet. He has not moved in, although he has tried and continues to suggest it. This is probably the biggest point of contention these days. To me, this feels like the best of both worlds. I love him and truly don't want to be with anyone else. I think I sort of function better and am happier also living in my own space that he just visits. I know it's not the norm, and some might say this means I don't really love him as much as I think. I really believe I'm just one of those people who needs more independence and alone time, and maybe we never would have got divorced in the first place if this had been the arrangement from the beginning. Is it sort of selfish? Maybe. I don't know anyone else with this arrangement, but I know some people out there do this. For all intents and purposes, we are together in a relationship again. We've made it official and exclusive, as juvenile as that sounds. We had already made it official between ourselves, but we hadn't really announced it to family and friends or our kids. We are still in love with each other, or back in love with each other, and we are not seeing anyone else. Our kids have adjusted well. They've been seeing a therapist since we filed for divorce, so that has really helped us navigate some of this. Prior to the baby's birth, we did not tell them that we were essentially in a relationship. Only so long you can keep that a secret from your kids. Even though they're young, they're perceptive. So we've recently explained to them that mommy and daddy love each other, but we get along better living in separate homes, and for now we think this is the best thing for our family. The only problem is that now they keep asking about when we will all live together again. I'm sure it's a little confusing to them, but I'm not sure how we could be handling it any better. We attempted marriage counseling when we separated, before divorce. It was not successful. I don't think either of us was 100% committed to it at the time. He really did not take it seriously back then, but I was more stubborn and resistant than I originally realized. We're in couples therapy now, and it's like night and day compared to last time. I'm scared to live together again, so we aren't going to do that anytime soon. It's not that I don't trust him. I don't trust us as a couple. I refuse to put my kids through all of that again. So, getting remarried and moving in together isn't something in the plans right now. Maybe one day. I hope we can get to that point. I just don't want my kids to have to go through a divorce and splitting households yet again. I feel like they'd lose all trust in us then. OP on their living situation. I think it might be best for us to find a way to each have our own place next to each other or on the same property, instead of one actual house that we share. Other than not living together, we are together. It's no different than any other couple that's dating but doesn't live together. Well, it's a little different since we share kids and we were once married and I still usually refer to him as my husband, but not too different. We aren't keeping our relationship a secret anymore, so we aren't pretending to not be together. Everyone knows now. We spend a lot of time together. But yeah, he may eventually want more than I do, as in a relationship where we live together 24/7. At this point, the hubby's ex-GF was firmly in the rearview mirror and OP was still brushing it off as if it is no biggie, but I found one exchange that people may find interesting. OP, downvoted. Yes, he had a girlfriend at the time. It's in my post history and I'm not trying to hide it, but we have moved well beyond that now. Response. People are downvoting her comment because it is pretty black and white when it comes to cheating. Cheating hurts others and a lot of people value living in a world and having actions that don't result in hurting others. He was in a relationship and committed to his girlfriend when he decided that he had the right to sleep with his ex and not immediately tell her that he did it. She deserved better than to get trauma from someone who claimed to be committed to her, but was willing to step out on her. Cheating on someone does result in emotional trauma, which will affect how they will view love and relationships going forward. Personally, if he wasn't ready to be in a relationship with her, then he should have left her alone. I am tired of men in particular getting into relationships with women when they know they are not clearly over their ex-partner. It is a sign of selfishness and pure disregard of another human being's health. She was used as an emotional support and sex object by him, because no one that respects their partner would do something this cruel. So I'm not going to cheer on someone who could have just avoided this entire situation by not being in a relationship when he was clearly not ready to be in one, and hurt someone deeply. Edit. I want to add additional thought as well. Cheating is not only an emotional hurt but a sign that you give zero care about your partner's health. He was presumably still having sex with his ex-girlfriend after sleeping with no condoms with his ex-wife. With the rate of sexually transmitted diseases and infections increasing and the likelihood of the disease being antibiotic resistant, he told his ex that he had zero care for health and emotional well-being. She had the basic right to know that he slept with another person while still being intimate with her, especially with no form of protection. Not calling the ex-wife dirty but with the risk of catching a disease that's incurable or opens you up to higher risk of illness. Every person who is engaging in a sexual relationship deserves honesty. OP. All of this may be true. I'm not arguing anything you said. But I'd like to know what everyone on Reddit thinks we're supposed to do about it. We can't go back in time and undo what we did. Maybe Redditors feel that as an act of penance we should not be together, despite very much wanting to, since that's what we deserve for hurting her in the process. We should never be allowed to move on and have any happiness in our lives, together or separate, because we did something at one time that hurt somebody. Short of publicly flogging ourselves and maybe not allowing ourselves to ever be in a relationship with anyone ever again as a form of self-punishment, what are we supposed to do to satisfy the masses? Neither of us are proud of hurting somebody.